It's time for TWiT. This week in tech, Brianna Wu is here. Nate Langston is here from Bloomberg. He's all the way from the UK, and it's been a long time. Tim Stevens is back from Upper New York State and CNET's Roadshow. Lots to talk about. A big quarter for big tech, a big year for big tech. They made a ton of money. Is this going to encourage scrutiny? Maybe. We'll talk about Apple's App Store. They sure make a lot of money, and the EU says maybe it's because they're a monopoly. We'll talk about AirTags. Are they a privacy concern? Can you be stalked with them? And then Brianna Wu gives up some of her Resident Evil secrets for speedrunning. It's all coming up next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 821, recorded Sunday, May 2nd, 2021. Bring in the Privacy Pod. This Week in Tech is brought to you by ExpressVPN. If you really want to go incognito and protect your privacy, make yourself as invisible as possible with the #1 rated VPN, ExpressVPN. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/twit. And by ZipRecruiter. Finding someone to wear many hats or one very specific hat is no easy task. ZipRecruiter finds people with the right experience for your job and invites them to apply, whether it's a civil engineer in New York or a mascot in Missouri. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/twit. And by Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door free, go to mintmobile.com/twit. It's time for TWiT, This Week in Tech, the show we cover the week's tech news. And I always love it's the one show I do every week where the panel is different every week. And that makes it fun for me. Partly because I get to catch up with people I haven't seen in ages, like Tim Stevens. Oh my God. How long has it been? It's been a couple of years, it feels like.
It seems like it's been a real long time. I'm glad to be here, Leo. It's great to see him.
I apologize. He's, of course, the editor-in-chief of CNET's Roadshow, editor-in-large at CNET, and a car buff. And since you're a car buff, I thought I'd bring somebody along who has no car. Nate Langston, tech editor from Bloomberg. He's in the UK and the host of Bloomberg's Quick Take, which is really cool. It's kind of a global news site.
Thank you.
Thank you. I bet it's doing well, right?
It is doing very well. I just shot an episode where we are joining the engineers who are ripping all the Huawei kit out of these high-rise 5G towers.
Wow.
So that's going to go out next week. It's pretty crazy stuff.
That's a huge story. We'll talk about that in a second. That's fascinating. But I have to introduce the third member of our panel. I saved my favorite for last. Well, you're all my favorites. But Brianna Wu. I love seeing Brianna Wu. Former candidate for Congress, former game developer, Space Cat gal, who can forget, and now executive director of RebellionPAC.com, a political action committee. Hello, Brianna.
I just want to say, current game developer, I can't tell you when I'm working.
Oh!
Whoa.
Oh!
Breaking news.
You don't think I bought a $7,000 machine just to sit here in my house?
Is that the iMac Pro you're talking about?
No. I put together a monster machine, AMD Threadripper, 24 cores, AMD 3090, just an absolute monster machine.
We're Tim Stevens. Are you in the AMD club or the Intel club?
I'm rocking Intel at the moment.
Oh, because Brianna and I both have. She's got a little bit more powerful Threadripper. I only have 8 cores. On my 5900X, but I have to say I'm very impressed. And I only got the 3080, not the 3090. But boy, it really looks good. And I'm driving a big 4K display, an OLED, which is really nice. And I have to say, it's not just for gaming anymore. It's really nice to have I'm running Linux, so I have a tiled window manager, so I have 4 different 1080p windows open at the same time, and they're big, and it's just, I'm loving life. It's desktops aren't dead. I know they're dead, but they don't feel like they're dead. You know,
I don't think they're dead.
well, for developers, for specialized uses, but I think PC sales are almost all laptops, aren't they these days?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
And tablets are booming too. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm doing sim racing myself, and I just upgraded to a Vive 2 HD.
Oh, you're
4K
doing the VR
rig.
thing.
So I just stepped up from a Rift S to a Vive 2, and there's a lot more pixels I got to push now. So that's why I need a little more horsepower on the GPU.
I have the original Vive at home. My 18-year-old does it, but I can't. What do you play?
Mostly iRacing and
of
Corsa Competizione. So doing sim racing is pretty much all that I'm up to these days.
So if you're a real racer, I know you do ice racing. How close is the VR game to actual racing?
It's pretty amazing how close it can be, especially with this newer sim, Corsa Competizione. The physics engine in that is unbelievable. They measure the tire temperature down to 3 different positions within the rubber, for example, just to give you an idea of how in-depth this physics engine is. And the feel, the sound, especially in VR, it's really, really engaging. And I also do a lot of rally racing, and when you're doing that, then you constantly need to be looking over your shoulder as you're sliding around a corner. And so even if you have like a triple monitor setup, it doesn't really work very well. But as soon as you get into VR, now you can look anywhere you want to, and it really makes
like you're in the car.
Much more engaging.
Yeah,
it's a lot more fun, a lot more engaging, and I love it.
I'm always curious.
I'd love your opinion on this, but for me, because I do track days too, and I feel like the disconnect I personally feel when I try sim racing is so much of doing a track day well, I feel, is getting to know the G-force and when your tires are going to break. That to me is so much of the skill of it. And when you're doing it in VR, you don't have, you have steering wheel feedback, but you just don't feel it in the same way.
Yeah,
it's bizarre. I can be like racing my own literal track car in, one of these racing simulators, and I just suck at it. And it's because of that lack of feedback.
Yeah, it really is learning. I mean, the mechanics are much the same. The reactions that you need are much the same, but the feedback that you're looking for is very different. Now it's really about what you hear and what you see. So you need to learn to kind of pick up the real tiny changes in perspective that you get when your car starts to slide. And yeah, force feedback wheels do help as well, but really it's about sound and vision. And that's why I think VR again helps, but it's also why a high solid frame rate is really important, because if your frame rate's stuttering at all, then that throws off your perception of what the car is doing, and that makes it really, really difficult to stay ahead of it.
Do you want to talk about bicycling or anything, Nate?
I like bikes too. I have a bicycle. I ride all the time.
Okay, let me tell you then. So I actually bought I bought a bike about 9 months ago. It's by this Belgian, I think a Belgian company called Cowboy, and I liked it because it's partly electric and it has Bluetooth and it connects to my phone.
I love e-bikes. Oh my God.
So it felt like a toy, but it still doesn't do all the work for you. So it helps me get fit. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I didn't want a basic push bike, and I also didn't want something that was just going to, like a motorcycle, like a basic motorcycle or something like that. I just wanted something that was a bit of both. And I think these electric bikes have really come on a long way. I love it. I really love it. I'm not going crazy journeys with it, and I'm mostly using it for pleasure. But it's great because I can use it on the road and I can cycle through the forest that we've got near here. That's pretty cool.
Sounds great.
Well, I've glued you all to your seats so that you can't go anywhere while we talk about the week's tech news. I'm sorry, it's just not as interesting, but that's what we're going to talk about today. This was a big week for tech companies and quarterly results. All of the tech companies had phenomenal quarterly results, right? Microsoft, Apple, Google, all making a ton of money. It actually is interesting. There was an article about big tech in the New York Times that pointed out that in 2020, now that we have all the results out for 2020, when you combine the yearly revenues of Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Facebook, $1.2 trillion. That's growth of 25% over last year. In less than 1 week, those 5 companies make more in sales than McDonald's does in a year. Wow. They are behemoths. And of course, always concomitant with this kind of success, then there's both public kind of upset and there's regulatory scrutiny. This week, Apple got the charges from the EU that the App Store is a monopoly. This is at the behest of Spotify. Antitrust violations in the Spotify case. There's Marta Vestager, the Competition Commission at the EU. She's really become the pit bull against big tech in the United States. EU regulators say Apple squeezed rival music streaming apps, Spotify, which is, where this came from, by requiring them to use Apple's in-app payment systems to sell digital content. They also say Apple distorted competition, that's the phrase they used, by limiting how app developers can inform users about cheaper ways to subscribe. This is a long-standing problem. Amazon didn't sell books in the Kindle store on iOS, and when they had the temerity to say, oh, by the way, you can buy these books on Amazon.com, Apple said, you can't say that. Apple's in-payment system, of course, charges 30% for most people. They've now lowered that for people that make more than $1 million a year, which is all the big boys, to 15%. There's a second data point on this. I don't know how much credibility to give it, but, Apple's tomorrow, Apple's going to go to court with Epic. The big battle has begun. Epic has hired an expert to analyze documents obtained from Apple and Discovery. Ned Barnes, he's a financial and economics researcher, said Apple has a 78% margin in the App Store. 78% profit. Is Apple's App Store, it's obviously a problem for Apple now. They're getting a lot of scrutiny, but is it really, is there a good reason for it to be a problem, Brianna? Is there something wrong with the way Apple's doing it?
Well, I think this is a hard situation to talk about, right? Like, no one that is a fan of iOS or the Apple ecosystem wants them to open this up to competitors. Part of what keeps all of us safe is, the curation and the limiting of who's able to run apps in the App Store. Just to really be frank with you, Leah, the only reason I stay on iOS is the privacy.
Right.
There's no other reason. It's not the features. It's not the hardware. So that's one side of it. But on the other, I think it's really increasingly difficult to say, Apple deserves that high a cut. What value are they really producing to earn that 30%? It's not payment processing, which is cheaper than ever. It's not really discovery, because the App Store tends to favor the biggest fish and, people that can afford to do their own marketing. What are they providing here? As far as the profit itself, wow, stunner, headline, monopolies and duopolies are insanely profitable. Who would have known that? So, I think that if Apple doesn't want to be increasingly under the gun of regulators, I think it would be smart of them to bring that down to a margin that's frankly doesn't seem as exploitive.
The number 78% isn't confirmed by Apple. In fact, they asked the judge, can we not talk about this? They literally said to the judge, Your Honor, let's not talk about this. And I don't know, the judge hasn't ruled yet, but somehow I feel like that might be material in the Epic case. Apple's services segment, according to Apple's own quarterly results, and services includes Apple App Store, but other things, is 70%. The gross margin for its products is 36%. This is an incredibly profitable company making an awful lot of money, but is that illegal? Nate, what do you think? You're from a former member of the EU.
Yeah, I follow this stuff closely, and frankly, Apple's hardware margins on iPhone used to be a lot higher than they used to be. I think they were even comparable to some of the margins that we're talking about for App Store that this analyst was discussing.
When you combine services and products, the total gross margin for the quarter was 42.5%. that's a phenomenally successful company. I mean, I know my company is not nearly so profitable, but I would guess most companies would be very happy with anything above 10%, maybe 20%, 42.5%. Wow.
But I think so. There's a few ways of looking at it because, on the one hand, you could say, well, there's nothing wrong with a company being profitable, making money. That's kind of what capitalism is predominantly all about. And the question is whether it's being abused and whether it could, whether that profitability and that market position is being abused, and if so, what needs to change in order for it not to be. And I don't believe that the EU is going to take as much of an issue with the profitability of the App Store from the perspective that, well, you could just make less profit. And actually, it will come down to, well, are you artificially prohibiting people who depend on your App Store from circumventing your payment platform? So if you look at what Apple did with the sign-in with Apple system, where if you offer a sign-in with Facebook or Google, you have to also offer sign-in with Apple. Apple can push the benefits of choosing Apple over the others by saying, well, look, it's more private, it's faster, it uses Face ID to authenticate, you're not typing in your password, all of which is true. And it offers a user that ability to say, well, I'm going to choose Apple to do this because it's faster and more convenient. If Apple were to be forced or choose to allow another form of payment system within an app, essentially the user, as Epic demonstrated with the Fortnite case that kind of spearheaded a lot of this stuff, that you give someone a choice and they can go with Apple and it might cost more money, but it's tied into the payment system. It's done without going to a separate web page, like when you have to pay with PayPal or something. Like, you could see that, well, there's a legitimate argument that people are still going to use Apple because it's just faster and more convenient. So I think that is probably what will end up being talked about a lot more than just the sheer profitability. I mean, if you want to look at profit margins, look at the fashion industry. It's crazy.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, a Rolex watch is very much more than 42% profit, I'm sure. Yeah. So I think that's what it probably will come down to. And just one other thing that I thought is worth pointing out is this reminds me a lot of the conversation that went around at the sort of turn of the millennium with Microsoft and its antitrust battle with the EU. Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, but the result for Microsoft was essentially that it lost its ground on a lot of products and like browsers, obviously in particular. I think Windows Media Player suffered. And I think that kind of had a knock-on effect that Microsoft was maybe less willing to be as aggressive in pushing its products against competitors than it may otherwise would have if it wasn't scared of antitrust. And I'm going to be looking out for whatever the result of this happens, whatever decisions made, whatever appeals are made or overturned, is whether this changes Apple's aggressive pursuit of dominating its ecosystem or whether it will eventually end up ceding ground in a way Microsoft did. And I think that's going to be fascinating.
I'm sure there'll be debate over this, but I agree with you. I think even though the DOJ-Microsoft battle, which went on for almost a decade, ended up, kind of in a draw, it tempered Microsoft's aggression. It's certainly, I think you make a strong case that Google, for instance, might not have existed if Microsoft hadn't been more careful about entering markets. You can also make the case that it's not been bad for Microsoft, that they have, as a result, found new areas to make money in. And it's actually, I don't think you can look at Microsoft today and say they suffered because of what happened in the late 90s and the early 2000s with the DOJ.
I mean, the company's worth over $2 trillion at this point.
Yeah.
And it lost the Windows Phone battle. I mean, if you were looking at an example of maybe how Microsoft would have approached a market opportunity more aggressively were it not for fears over antitrust, look at Windows Phone.
Perfect.
Like that was not a product that should have failed, really. It had everything going for it in terms of the people who could have pushed it harder and didn't. And
That's
eventually
interesting.
It lost out.
I have never heard
Google
anybody
now.
say that's why they lost the Windows Phone market. Usually it's the carrier stores in the U.S. that are blamed for not.
I don't think exclusively. I think it was just a part.
It makes sense.
There were
though.
other things wrong with it.
Microsoft certainly was chastened and was much less aggressive. In a way, we've lost because it would be great to have another standard besides iOS and Android. So, and it was, I think Windows Phone was great, but So the customer has lost a little bit, but I don't think a less rapacious Microsoft is a bad thing in general overall.
I just want to come back to this issue. I think because I'm looking at the Club Twitch chat, I don't think any of us here begrudge any tech company for doing very well and making a lot of money. I don't think anyone here has any kind of problem with that. My interest in this really begins and ends when you have companies that are so large that we cannot continue to have innovation in the tech industry. And I think we have to be asking ourselves, could you launch another Facebook today without that being gobbled up by Facebook? Could you have a really strong hardware manufacturer come along today with an operating system and compete with Apple or Microsoft? I think the answer is increasingly probably not.
Wow.
So my only interest here is making sure we can continue to foster innovation in the tech industry. Because if we don't, this thing that all of us love, it's just going to stagnate. And I think we are unfortunately seeing that in many ways.
Competition.
And even for those startups who do fit within this ecosystem, who could write an app that will fit within, App Store guidelines, now need to make 30% additional margins on their end just to break even because of the high fees that Apple is charging. If you think of your average retail space, there isn't a shopping mall on the planet that would take 30% off of all the sales of any of their stores and expect for those stores to survive. But that's exactly what Apple's doing. And it's hard for that to not look egregious. And regarding margins, I love that Apple's response to the margins wasn't, this is invalid, this is wrong. It was, we actually don't calculate that and we can't calculate that, which is totally BS. Of course they calculate it. Of course they know that. Just because they don't report it doesn't mean they don't have a number ready and waiting.
We don't know. We have no idea how much we make. No idea at all. By the way, they're spending $90 billion to buy back stock. They announced that as well in the quarterly results. That's a huge amount. And that will, of course, inflate the stock price even further, which means that people who own Apple stock, probably members of Congress, will be very well disposed towards Apple. It also means that employees will get bigger stock grants and so forth and so on. Somebody in the Club Twit chat, they are pointing out that the cost isn't to Spotify or Amazon, it's to you, because in most cases companies just pass along this 30% to the consumer. So Joe's saying, when you buy YouTube Premium on the web, it's $12. When you buy it on the Apple Store, it's $16, and on and on and on. And that actually kind of makes sense.
But there are some services that aren't available elsewhere. If you're buying a premium app, a game, something like that, and you can only get it through the App Store, then you don't have an option. There's no way around it. So that premium certainly is baked in there. It is being passed on to the user. But if the app is 30% higher, more expensive than it would be otherwise, then do you expect it to have 30% fewer sales? Probably so.
The funny thing is, and this is why it's so hard to cover, Apple is this mixed bag. Because as you said, Brianna, you use it because it's privacy focused. I would say you could argue that the App Store makes it a more secure. I think the iPhone is a more secure platform, whether it's the App Store or Apple's engineering or the fact that it's such a closed system compared to Android. But for whatever reason, I think it feels a lot safer. And then Apple is, this week, Apple released iOS 14.5, iPadOS 14.5, which is, sticking it to Facebook with their application tracking switches and their privacy statements. All of a sudden, companies like Google and Facebook have to admit they're gathering huge amounts of information, and consumers get to decide, A, whether they want to let them continue to do that, and B, whether they even want to use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. Maybe I'm going to use something else because I'm looking at that privacy statement and comparing it to Signal, and I don't want to give up that information. So Apple's doing some real good, right? We agree with this new ATT stuff.
Take it from a former political fundraiser, the amount of information I can get on you from your Facebook account it would horrify you if you really found out about it just from your Facebook account.
Well, now people are.
Exactly.
And they're horrified.
You can do list matching with it. I can ultimately find out your address. I can find out what your interests are. I can find out what websites you visit, because all this is collated. And I have to tell you, they sell it for a song. They sell it for an insultingly low amount. So, I think having seen how the sausage is made, you better believe I was sitting there waiting for them to update it on my iPhone. I'm like, install now, because it's such an obvious step forward. I think it's really sad that Google is probably not going to do this on Android, because I think in many ways that's an ecosystem that needs this even more.
This week, Apple also released its AirTags, something that the company Tile, which is up to now has been the leader in Bluetooth tracking tags, has been very afraid of. Tile's CEO has testified in front of Congress saying Apple's going to put us out of business. They're going to use their market clout. They're going to use the fact that there's a billion iPhones out there to completely dominate, and it's happening. Apple, 2 weeks before they released AirTags, did open the Find My system. Another Bluetooth tracker, Chipolo, agreed to support it, giving these guys much of the benefit that AirTags have. But it's very hard to compete against a Bluetooth tracker that uses the fact that there are a billion iPhones out there, all of which will be, keeping an eye out for your lost keys. That's a tough thing to compete with. And this is the problem. You want Apple to innovate. You want Apple to do these things. You want them to be good. You want them to make money. You just don't want them to use their monopoly position to kill competition or disadvantage consumers. And it's difficult to think of, for instance, a solution to the App Store that would somehow fix this problem. Putting a third-party App Store is not going to change things dramatically.
I don't know. I think there is an easy fix.
What's that?
Let people put their own payment systems in the App Store and let the consumer make their choice. I mean,
they could choose Stripe instead of Apple Pay and not give Apple a 30% VIG.
They do it through Safari and put their credit card details in, or they use Apple Pay.
Yeah.
Just do the same in the apps. And I think, a huge part of this problem just goes away overnight.
They should do that, because you know what? People are still going to use Apple Pay. By a vast majority are still going to use it because it's easy, and a fingerprint or a Face ID, and you're done.
I want to pay for my Apple Music subscription with my Dogecoin.
Well, I would hold on. You don't want to be that person who bought an album for $5 million with Dogecoin. Now that Elon Musk and Mark Cuban are saying Dogecoin's the next big crypto, how much Dogecoin do you have, Brianna?
Oh, I would never have Dogecoin. I have a lot of Bitcoin, but
you should have got the Dogecoin. You got to get on the Dogecoin train.
Christina made bank. Christina made so much money from Dogecoin.
Really?
It is obscene.
You're kidding.
She bought it on a lark. For me, if you look at Dogecoin, the very thing that makes Bitcoin valuable in the long term, like the fact that they're not going to have more of it, probably, Dogecoin is the opposite of that. Like, look into the architecture before you put serious money in this. If you want to play a short game, more power to you, but you're destroying the planet for something.
Well, that's another problem.
Really has no value.
That's another problem entirely.
Yeah.
Dogecoin this year is up 5,000%. It may hit, cryptocurrency experts say, $1. Oh. How much did Christina have? Did she sell it? Like, I would hold it.
She sold a ton of it, and we're like, Christina, just cash out. Go get a new M2 Mac or M1 iMac. like get it. Have something that's real from this. Enjoy your trip.
We're talking about Christina Warren, who's your co-host on Rocket, and of course a regular on our show. And she's a developer advocate at Microsoft, but she wants an M1. Huh? Okay.
Wasn't the guy behind Dogecoin? Didn't he work at IBM? Did I make that up?
It was a joke. It was.
Yeah. Yeah. The Doge meme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a meme.
Very Doge.
Yeah.
Such
very
value.
Doge. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know our own father, Robert, had quite a bit of Dogecoin, but I think he dumped it when it got to like 10 cents. He had no idea it was going to get to 38 cents. Crazy.
So I think there's a really interesting question around all this, just to be slightly tangential to the news for a sec, which is that there's a lot of people now, because of the popularity of Bitcoin over the last year in particular. We're seeing it on the sides of buses, we're seeing it on tops of taxis and stuff, like get a Bitcoin account, get into crypto, that there are going to be a lot of people who acquire crypto and then die, and people are going to want to get access to that money, and that's really difficult to do. And I wrote maybe.
Oh, you mean actually literally die, not?
Yeah, they're gonna buy Doge. Or
how do you hand down your Dogecoin or your Bitcoin?
Well, this is the thing. There are ways to do it.
I gave my son my Bitcoin wallet, but that's only because. And by the way, there's 8 Bitcoin in it. But that's only because I can't remember the password. So he gave up by trying to crack it.
See, that's a big problem. I wrote a feature for Business Week a few years ago and spoke to a guy who, he was very sad. His son was killed in a plane crash.
But they don't know his password.
But he bought Bitcoin within the first few weeks or something of it existing, and it would have been worth a lot of money, but there's just no way to access it. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. And I'm very interested to see how, whether it's inheritance, people who are writing wills and insurance and stuff, like how they're going to respond to the fact that a lot of, average person in the street is going to have a bunch of crypto, and they're going to want to have to protect it. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff happening.
Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway, calls Bitcoin disgusting and bad for civilization.
I saw this. And I'm like, I agree with every word you're saying. Yes, you're dead on. And yet I'm making so much money doing mining every day. I am part of
that's
the
right.
problem.
You're mining. That's what you're using that rig for. And now I understand. Is it pay for itself?
I bought it to game, and then, Christina, for Rocket segment, we were like, can you make money through cryptocurrency mining? And I was just curious about it. So I set it up to do Ethereum mining with Nice Miner. And Leo, I swear, even subtracting electricity costs, I make $35 a day. Every couple of days.
That's pretty good.
Doing crypto mining.
That's your profit.
I think real
electricity is so expensive in California. I don't know how viable that would be, but maybe in Massachusetts it's not as expensive.
Especially once I get solar panels in my house.
Well, we have 60 solar panels and 2 Tesla batteries. I guess I probably should be mining with that rig instead of playing Valheim. I am mining. I mean, I have a pickaxe and I'm digging a troll trench, but I don't know if that counts as Bitcoin. Here's the quote. I don't know if my audio. We never tested my audio. We gotta do this every time on this. I'm on a computer that seems to revert its settings every time. Okay, I think it's okay. Let me play this audio from the Berkshire Hathaway meeting this week.
Well,
this is Charlie Munger.
Those who know me well are just waving the red flag of the bull. Of course, I hate the Bitcoin success. And I don't welcome a currency that's so useful to kidnappers and extortionists and so forth, nor do I like just shuffling out a few extra billions and billions.
By the way, I got to point out, this is at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting. Because they own See's Candy, there's a big box of peanut brittle. And because looks like, is that Coca-Cola? I think they're big in Coca-Cola as well. There are a couple of cans of Coca-Cola and some Fiji water on there. They don't mind plugging their own stuff.
Dollars to somebody who just invented a new financial product out of thin air.
Dogecoin.
So
they should have asked about Dogecoin.
I think I should say modestly that I think the whole damn development is disgusting and contrary to the interests of civilization. And I'll leave the criticism to others.
Wow.
And Warren Buffett says, I'm okay on that one. I have to say, when you watch this, these guys are older than me. That's pretty old. And it really feels like the old generation, well, there's nothing wrong with stocks. Looking at the new generation, you kids and your crazy cryptocurrencies, maybe, I don't know. Fiat currency is fiat currency. I don't think Bitcoin's any sketchier than any other cryptocurrency or fiat currency.
I feel like there's a cultural element to it, right?
Yeah.
Like you have
there is the environmental impact, though. We can't ignore that.
Oh,
either.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be really clear. I am a monster for participating in this.
Yeah,
in
you're
any
burning
way.
hydrocarbons, pumping them into the air so you can make your crappy $35 a day.
Thank
I'm
you.
ashamed
Thank
of
you,
Brianna.
I feel bad about it. I really do. And then I buy some Chipotle for lunch.
As she drives her Porsche Boxster around. Okay, no problem.
No, but I wanted to say, I think that part of the reason this has grabbed so much of the cultural zeitgeist, especially with millennials and people younger, is I think there's a growing sense that the financial industry is fundamentally corrupt. And I think there's a sense that, like, this is the way we get rich. This is our time. This is our scheme, And I think it's about, so much of the Bitcoin fever, I think it's about kind of a resentment about a monetary system that works for the Warren Buffetts of the world and isn't working for a lot of people under 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you look at the GameStop stock manipulation, it's exactly the same thing. It's a lot of younger people saying, we can manipulate the market as well. This system has been stacked against us for so long, but if we get together, we can actually make this work, and we can show just how ridiculous this entire thing is. And I think that really shed a lot of light on people's perspectives in terms of investment, crypto versus a traditional stock market investment. That everything is kind of imaginary. Everything is built on faith. Everything is built on what everybody else is doing. So there's no reason to think that one thing is inherently more valuable than something else. It's all just numbers on a screen.
Yeah. At this point, it's bits. It's not even anything. It's just bits. It's all bits. Actually, Nate, you wanted to mention this. Apple, instead of doing what you thought maybe Microsoft did under all that scrutiny, backing off, has really doubled down. They're apparently about to launch lossless streaming on Apple Music, competing with. Does Spotify even have lossless? I know Deezer and Tidal do, or have high bit rate anyway. I have a classical music subscription, Prime Phonic, which is lossless. I get. Oh yeah, Spotify launched lossless in February. All right, Spotify Hi-Fi.
Because there's the lossless aspect, and then there's higher res, which is something that Tidal. I think Tidal does it. I know that if you download from Bandcamp, I know that stuff's high res because I recently bought a new album by the family-friendly band Cannibal Corpse, which is in high res, and I didn't realize until I got the file, and I was like, wow, this is 24-bit.
You never want lossy compression on an Animal Corpse. I'm just saying.
Cannibal Corpse.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Specifically.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's very, very.
Is it corpse with an E or is it core?
Corpse with an E.
Corpse with an E. Okay.
Yeah. For God's sake, don't put the album cover on the video. But the point is what was my point? My point was lossless streaming is one thing, but I'm particularly excited about the prospect of high res because as part of some of these rumors that have been written about is that this may potentially support Dolby Atmos audio. And that gets me very excited because what Apple's done with Atmos and with the spatial audio with the AirPods Pro is extremely effective. It does create a very, very different movie watching experience. And a lot of live concerts and audio streams, music streams, they're recorded or mastered in 5.1 surround sound, for instance. So the idea that maybe Apple, which does want to start doing much more with its music service, it wants to do these live music experiences, and even if it's documentaries or concert streams or whatever, I kind of see that all being part of the same thing. And maybe this is Apple's step into
very
not
interesting
just lossless audio, but
spatial audio.
Let's stream, but for live concerts and events and things like that.
It's sad because nothing Apple sells would qualify as high fidelity. I mean, honestly.
Say again, sorry?
Nothing Apple sells would qualify as high fidelity. The AirPods are terrible.
They are terrible, and they are terrible compared to if you buy a big, nice set of headphones, because Bluetooth compresses
Nothing
audio.
wireless is going to be good. Yeah, even aptX. Yeah.
But there are ways around that for sure. And there's hi-fi and Apple has its own chips in the earphones, and maybe it can take that a step further.
This is very Apple.
An iPhone.
This is what they did with the HomePod, which is they sell what is essentially kind of low end, certainly not high fidelity audio equipment, but then they make a big deal about how they own 90 anechoic chambers and they hire the best engineers, and this is, and then they sell this thing for $300 and nobody wanted. They had to cancel it after a year. I remember the iPod Hi-Fi they were selling. Steve Jobs said, "I'm selling my high-end audio gear because this is so good," and of course it died immediately too. This is very Apple.
It is, and I think the only way Apple's going to get something like this off the ground is if they do it in tandem with a premium set of AirPods, which, lo and behold, it just so happens to have released a very expensive pair of headphones. So, because people need to be able to put it on their head and really immediately tell that difference. And with the spatial audio stuff, you really can. That even someone whose ears aren't so good could probably notice the difference with.
So I've done a lot of work with high fidelity. This is
interesting. I didn't know that.
They're amazing. And one of the problems that we're running into is the original AirPod. It will play that to you. It's not capable of doing that spatial audio. And even though they could update the algorithm that goes, helps it connect from the AirPod to your iPhone or iPad or Mac, they won't do that. I suspect they kind of want you to go and invest in, the AirPod Pros or some new Apple product, despite the wild popularity of AirPods.
They sell a $550 over-the-ear headphone, the AirPods Max, that even at that price, which is a steep price, is widely considered not to be particularly high fidelity.
Right. But my point here is you've got a startup. This comes back to our previous discussion about monopoly, right? And so you've got a startup that's trying to compete with, Clubhouse and doing spatial audio for conferences.
Oh,
and,
interesting.
Zoom meetings, like a lot of interesting applications.
There you go. It's not about high fidelity music.
Right. It's not high fidelity of the company. So if they would come in and update that audio codec, it would help this space. And, Apple in some ways is more interested in selling their higher resolution version of the product.
I looked up high fidelity, and unfortunately, I guess I found the high fidelity cannabis company. So
nope,
that's not what's this company? High Fidelity? HIGH?
Yeah, High Fidelity. It's by Philip Rosedale. He's a Second Life guy. Fantastic person.
See, okay, so he's all, because of Second Life, he's all about, group things. And you could see in Second Life, the ability to know, that person's to my left, that person's behind me, that person's in front of me, would be huge.
Yeah.
So he's selling a spatial audio API. This is not the same, unfortunately, as Apple's technology. So
right, but it's an underlying technology that is fundamentally destroyed by Apple's AirPods. And he's like trying to talk to them. Can we please update this codec?
Oh yeah. Sure. They'll work with him. No problem.
Yes, he's a pretty important person.
Philip, if they invite you into the Apple headquarters to talk, do not go. Bring your lawyer. Anyway, that would be my advice. That's interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we're not talking, because Apple, I think you could argue, has done more to ruin people's taste in music because of the kind of low end, headphones that were ubiquitous, and the iPods. They've just created, and the 128 kilobit AAC. They've created a generation of people who just don't know what good music sounds like. Now I really sound stupid. I sound like Neil Young or something. But really, they become the kind of the low bar for audio fidelity. But on the other hand, spatial audio in a context like a concert or a meeting, it's not about the quality of the fidelity of the sound. It's about the spatial experience. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I could see Apple doubling down on that. They do, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Philip, own that. At least mind share of that. Very interesting. Is his technology in any hardware yet? How does it?
I probably should
Don't
not
say
answer
anything.
that. So.
Do not answer. You've said enough, young Padawan. So, yeah, there is speculation that maybe Apple would announce something in June at WWDC. They've had their event for this month. One more story on AirTags, and then we're going to take a break. I thought a very good story on Mashable by a journalist who said, Apple says you can't use AirTags to stalk people, but she gave her 2 roommates AirTags and was able to, with no trouble at all, and no alert to these her friends. I mean, she told them ahead of time, but there was no other way they would have known. Able to stalk them for days down to their exact location, their street address, and so forth. This is an interesting issue. The National Network to End Domestic Violence says Apple's got to fix this. This has been a problem with Bluetooth trackers from day one, but they were the tracker network, the tile network were always so scant that it really didn't. There was no way to track anybody with this. All of a sudden, you've got a GPS, better than a GPS device, that you could slip into somebody's purse or pocket and follow them around.
Now, didn't Apple say there was something built into the system that would alert you if you were within close proximity to the same AirTag that wasn't registered to you? Because the Find My network, I think it's essentially it's every iPhone, every iPad is and similar is a little a little beacon for these things. So you don't need Wi-Fi necessarily, but if it detects one that isn't registered to you, then it can say, hey, look, there's
in
an AirTag
theory.
near you.
This is the press release. So credit to Brenda Stolyar at Mashable, who actually tested this and found that a lot of the protections Apple puts in are not effective to prevent stalking. So, for instance, they say that if once the AirTag is separated from you, it will, after some period of time, start beeping, right? You'll get a safety alert. Now, first of all, if you have an iPhone with 14.5, you're a little bit safer. You'll get a safety alert that says your current location can be seen by the owner of this AirTag. Her roommates had Android phones, so they saw nothing. It takes about 3 days, she said, before the AirTag starts beeping at you saying there's an AirTag in your purse. 3 days is plenty of time for a stalker to do his dirty work.
I think that's only 3 days if it doesn't reconnect to the original device in that time.
Right.
So if you're coming home at the end of every day, if it's someone tracking their spouse unwillingly, then ultimately that chime may never even go off.
But let's say I'm a stalker and I've decided that Britney Spears is my the target of my affections, and I can somehow get this slipped into her purse. She's not going to my house; she's going to her house. It will be 3 days before the AirTag starts beeping, and if she does not have an iPhone with 14.5 on it, she'll have no idea it's there. This is a good article to read. She was able to use the AirTag to track her roommates down to the address. Her roommates thought it was kind of creepy. She would text them and say, "Are you at 118 McDougal Street?" And they'd say, "That's creepy as you know what. Are you at Jeans right now? Oh my God, stalker." I thought this was, it's not scientific, but Apple has not been clear about what the period of time is, for instance, before it starts beeping. In theory, if you go to a regularly visited place, your home would be the primary one, but like your work, the AirTag will disable. But that's only, again, if you have iOS 14.5 on a late model iPhone. And so, yeah, don't use this to stalk anybody who has a late model iPhone, I guess, and keeps it up to date. But there's some real issues with this, I think.
So I don't want to sound Apple fangirl, but I'm going to defend them just a little bit here. I think my interpretation of this is it's always different when you have something tested internally at Apple versus releasing it to the mass public and seeing how they handle this. To me, the real question isn't, does this work today? Is Apple interested in creating an architecture that will, help minimize this obvious problem? And I think that answer is yes. So the things we're talking about here can all be updated for, future update to AirTags and to iOS.
They can fix it, for sure.
They can fix this. I also think it's just worth saying, we can master blast Apple for this, and it's fair. But if you want to talk about real stalkerware, I urge you to look at some of the InfoSec dangers that are possible in Android in regards to stalking.
Yeah.
And we're talking listening to everything you do,
right,
recording every single site you visit, broadcasting your location, and this by routing the phone very, very easily. Like, there are companies that specialize in this. So I'm not saying the danger isn't there. I'm saying I personally have faith that Apple is going to address it. Maybe you're more cynical than I am, but that's my take.
I'm sure they will, but only if they get pressure. So we're giving them pressure.
Thank God for journalism.
Apple clearly thought about it. They were aware of this. They even mentioned in the event and in their press releases, here's what we're doing to prevent this being used by stalkers. It's just important that people raise this issue, and I think this article on Mashable by Brenda Stoliar is very good at raising some real critical issues, and people should be aware of this. I guess one solution is for everybody to buy an iPhone. Apple wouldn't mind that solution, but another solution might be for Apple to make some changes to how this works. Yeah.
Would it be possible for a tag to be disabled by another person's iOS device? So
you can actually disable it even with an Android device if you find it. So it has NFC in it, and you can scan it, and it'll say this tracker belongs to this person, and you can disable it at that point. But you have to find it. And if it's, and Brianna makes an excellent point. I mean, every smartphone is potentially the worst tracker in the world. It has a microphone, camera, and GPS. And there are ways to make any smartphone be dangerous to you. So this is a general problem.
The battery in a phone would die after a couple of days if you're running GPS and everything on it.
Right.
Whereas the battery in an AirTag, I think, can last about a year.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I think it could be problematic, much as I don't want it to be, and I hope it isn't.
It's something to be aware of. That's all. And I think Apple needs to respond to these, I think, reasonable criticisms. Somebody, by the way, is pointing out. Somebody's in the RSC said, you can disable it. You hit it with a hammer, or you can actually remove the battery. So if you can find it, you can disable it. That's not hard to do. Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I was just going to say, this reminds me a bit of the release of Google Glass, actually, where Google had this idea for a cool tech product, and it seemed like they really didn't put any thought into the whole privacy aspect of the thing. They kind of threw it out there to see what consumers would do with it. And everybody said, oh my God, this is terrifying. You're going to be recording me in the bathroom and things like that. And Google at the time was very reluctant to make any changes to Google Glass to make any privacy advocate feel even a little bit better about other people wearing this thing. Ultimately, it wasn't a mass market product, and it kind of really never went anywhere. Apple, I hope they respond in a better way, that they're more receptive to these criticisms. And I think they will too, because they obviously want to sell a lot of these things.
Yeah, and they will. I mean, this is going to be, and Tyle's right to be terrified. You can't compete with 1 billion iPhones, and this is going to be ubiquitous. I ordered 4. People are starting to get them already.
I did too.
And it's
a good product.
It is, and the thing that it does that nothing else does is this UWB, this ability to, with the ultra-wideband chip built into late model iPhones, point your iPhone and get, it's under the couch, point it, and then there it is. Nobody can do that, and that's fantastic. I mean, eventually, I suppose UWB isn't owned by Apple. I suppose other companies can do this, but this is why you live in that ecosystem, Brianna, because it works.
Yep. I do have to say, one of the problems I think Tile made, this is just my experience with it, but the first versions of it did not have a user replaceable battery.
That was shameful.
I will never forget what's the site with the funny illustrations that you go to?
XKCD or?
No, the one that How to Wiki.
Yeah.
And, you're going there and people are
I like how you remember the how-to wiki.
But, it's showing you how to, pry these things apart to replace the battery in it because they want to sell you a earth-destroying thing every year. And I'm like, F this. If Tile had not made such user-hostile decisions at the beginning, I think they would have more market share today and would be in a more aggressive position with Apple.
Yeah, they have replaceable batteries now, but I think the perception that you throw away the Tile when it runs out of juice is still with a lot of people. I mean, maybe they made some steps wrong, but boy, I don't think anybody ever wants to compete with Apple. That's just a bad place to be, Mm-hmm. Maybe Google will. In fact, it's interesting. Google I.O. is coming up in a couple of weeks, May 18th. Sundar Pichai, and we'll talk about Google in the next segment, but Sundar Pichai, but this little tease, Sundar Pichai in the quarterly analyst call basically said, we kind of took it easy last year. And the product cadence is going to step up, and we're going to have something very big to announce at Google I.O., and I wonder if they're going to move the Pixel 6 announcement up. Normally they do that in the fall. We know that Google is going to design its own chips this time. And so the Pixel, which really the Pixel 5 was kind of like, in fact, so much so that I stuck with my Pixel 4. And you know me, I always get whatever the latest is. I think this could be very interesting, and that's only a couple of weeks off. So I want to see a vital, engaged Google. I don't like the Google of 2020, the sleepy Google. That wasn't good. We will talk about Google's quarterly results and Amazon's profits and a whole lot more, including a Google privacy robot in their offices. But first, a word, as long as we're talking about privacy, from ExpressVPN. Have you ever browsed in incognito mode? It's not as incognito as you might think. In fact, there's a $5 billion class action lawsuit against the company right now because a user said, I went in incognito mode. Little did I know, Google's still collecting user data. Google's made its fortune by tracking your movements online. Google says, well, incognito doesn't mean invisible. And they do have an announcement, I guess, when you go in there. But really, you should know that even if you're using private browsing in Safari or, any of these so-called incognito modes, your ISP can still see everywhere you go. When you search on Google, Google knows you're there. How do you actually make yourself invisible as possible online? ExpressVPN. That's our sponsor for this segment. We're big fans. Even in incognito mode, your online activity gets tracked. Data brokers can still buy and sell your information. Data harvesters can use your IP address to uniquely identify you and your location. With ExpressVPN, your connection gets rerouted through an encrypted server. Your IP address is masked. You're given a random IP address that is shared by many, many other ExpressVPN customers. So it's a lot harder for third parties to identify you and harvest your data. The best part is how easy it is to use ExpressVPN, no matter what device you're using, phone, laptop, or smart TV. One button gives you protection. Sometimes I'll turn it on and forget, leave it on for weeks, and finally go, but why not leave it on if it's that fast? So if you really want to go incognito and protect your privacy, and secure yourself with the #1 rated VPN, visit expressvpn.com/twit. You'll get 3 extra months with a 1-year package, and you'll be helping Twit out by just going to that website, EXPRESS. Spell it out, expressvpn.com/twit. Get 3 extra months free with a 1-year package. It's the only VPN I use because no logging, it respects your privacy. It's also very secure. ExpressVPN.com/twit. Thank you, ExpressVPN, for your support. This has been a week to remember on Twit. We've made a little video. This won't win an Oscar, but it should win something. Watch.
Now I'm going to explain that due to COVID requirements, I'm recording this by myself with an Insta360 360-degree camera.
Previously on Twit. Hands-on tech.
Finally, my Mustang Mach-E has arrived. Yes, it's not quite a Mustang, but it has some Mustang touches, and it sure is fun to drive.
Tech News Weekly.
researchers are apparently they're taking time to look into and ponder the possible effects of deep-faked geography. For example, creating hysteria around things like wildfires in an area where none exists.
This Week in Google.
This is not moral panic. This is really a scary story from the Washington Post. She never returned her VHS copy of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
This story.
The DA's office.
This happened to me.
20 years later, she faces a felony charge.
iOS Today.
I have AirTags. Look, it says AirTag on there, right there. Open up one of these AirTags, and then it just pops up on my phone. Okay, this is great.
How'd she get it so
now
fast?
Also available in several colors of unapologetic plastic.
I wish I had those AirTags. Apple did the usual thing. They sent me the holders. I got all excited. Something from Apple. My AirTags are here. No. They'll come. They'll come soon. Let's see. What else is news? Google earnings smash sales records. This is going to be a broken record if we go through all the tech companies that release their earnings. YouTube, very, very successful. Alphabet's total profit, $18 billion. Nice to make $1.5 billion a week. Nice work if you can get it. But here's the kind of the most important number. That's up 162% from the previous year. 162%. Wow. Google's going to also repurchase shares. Apple said 90 billion. Google only going to repurchase 50 billion in shares. That makes stock owners happy because then their shares are worth more. The company had 31.88 billions in sales. 30% increase. YouTube, $6 billion in revenue, 49% increase. Yeah, because we were all home with nothing to do and we'd saw all the Netflix shows. So why not? A little YouTube.
I mean, every single Sunday, I'm dreading that pop-up that comes up with what my screen time is for YouTube because I know it's embarrassing.
What do you watch on YouTube?
I watch a lot of car repair videos. Obviously, a lot of TWiT. You got to watch that.
Thank you.
It's mostly car stuff and video game stuff. I did want to say, though, every time we talk about stock buybacks, this used to be illegal a while back because it's essentially a sugar high for your stock price. I don't know how I feel about that being such a common practice these days. Part of why I think workers don't get the money when companies do very well is they tend to just put it straight back into stock buybacks.
Yeah. Well, what else are you going to do? I mean, this is one of the problems you have when you have, I don't know how many billions in cash Apple has or Google. Apple was well over 200 billion in cash. There's not a lot you can do. Stock buybacks are probably the most, they don't help the economy. They don't hire more people. They don't build more products. They don't build plants. They really only help shareholders and employees. So maybe that's what you're saying is it'd be nice if they plowed some of that into something that would help the economy.
The people that helped make all that money. I don't know. I saw a story a while back that Apple could go with and not sell a single product and keep spending the same amount that they're doing today on R&D, and they would have enough cash on hand to go for like 60 years or something. So, there it is. Maybe
this will make you feel better. I don't want to go back to Apple, but they have committed to $430 billion in U.S. investments over the next 5 years, including a new North Carolina campus. They say, quote, this is from the Apple press release, job creating investments in innovative fields like silicon engineering and 5G technology. Apple's desperately trying to find the next big hit. The iPhone is huge. Everybody agrees that Apple's looking closely at augmented reality spectacles. So I bet a lot of that is in that area.
And don't forget the Apple Car.
Do you think, Tim, really an Apple Car? Do you think?
I'm still incredibly skeptical, but all signs are pointing that they really, really, really want to make something.
They're putting money in
there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're hiring
It just
people?
seems like there was a whole Apple TV thing, the actual Apple television thing, where, again, all the signs were pointing to they're going to do it, and then ultimately they kind of scrapped it last minute. It seems like they're just so much more motivated to make this happen one way or another. So, yeah, I think we're going to see something. I still don't know exactly what it's going to be, or if they're going to actually try to manufacture a car or partner with somebody like Magda to make it happen. But for sure, it's going to take a lot of money to make it happen. And if you're going to do it, North Carolina would be a pretty good place to do a lot of that engineering. There's a lot of amazing engineering talent in the motorsports space around there. Big thanks to NASCAR.
See, I was wondering why North Carolina for a second headquarters. That seems an odd place. I mean, there's a lot of talent in that area, but... So
they know they can get that Foxconn factory for nothing if they want to.
No, that's in Wisconsin. Sorry, that's in Wisconsin. Yeah. Actually, in response to the chip shortage, I think you're seeing some big commitments from a lot of companies, including TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, which makes all of Apple's chips. They're going to spend tens of billions of dollars on chip fabs in Arizona. Intel has announced they're going to do the same thing. A lot of response to the chip shortage, but the problem is it takes years to put these online. And those chip shortages, Sam Abul Samad, our car guy, just told me, Tim, that Ford's saying now they're only going to be able to make half as many cars as the demand this year. Half.
It's really amazing. So many manufacturers have spent so much time over the past 5 years putting chips into everything from suspension to, of course, infotainment and smart climate control systems. And a lot of that stuff was not very well integrated. So your average car has, half a dozen or more different bits of silicon in there. And so if any of those is affected by the numerous shortages going on around the world right now, then suddenly you have a big problem. And Ford definitely does. And just about every manufacturer on the planet right now does too. So it's... like you said, there's no easy solution here because it does take so long to spin up a new fab. A lot of companies are now making investments in doing their own chip research, just like Apple, of course. But again, it's going to take years before anybody can really make any massive headway on that front. So we could be seeing the ramifications going for quite a long time on this, which is one of the reasons why we're seeing used car sales, go through the roof. And used car valuations are going through the roof right now. Not quite as much as, Dogecoin, but for sure, I have a lot of friends who bought a car 2 years ago who are going on to pick any random online used car market and getting cash offers for more than they bought their cars for, which is astronomical.
It makes sense. If there's a shortage of new cars, I bet I get some money for my Mustang Mach-E. How much you give me? Yeah. How much you give me, Brianna?
I'm good. I'm more of an icon gal.
You don't do the electric.
I will. I have said
I love it.
Porsche puts it out.
Well, the Taycan. Everybody who has a Taycan loves it.
Yeah, it's an amazing car.
It's just too big for me. My cars are 911, 86 911, 2000 Boxster, and 2018 Cayman. I like small, fast cars.
Is the Taycan that much bigger? I didn't realize.
Oh,
it's a
really
big car.
Big. Yeah.
It's because of the battery.
It's Mercedes S-Class size, pretty much.
Oh, because you got to put the battery
their next car
in.
will be like an EV version of the Macan, which is a smaller crossover SUV. So they're going to go smaller, but it's going to be a while before we see a proper EV sports car, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I'll keep waiting, though.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think
but this comes back to Apple, though. Like, if you think about Apple being in your cars, it is our infotainment system. Like in a Porsche, Porsche's fundamental software for the car just sucks. Everybody just uses Apple CarPlay. And I think that's true.
Yeah, that's the one thing wrong with Tesla is they refuse to use CarPlay or Android Auto. They do their own thing.
So Apple has spent so much effort on their battery technology. If Apple could solve batteries or, increase range or increase lightness or, do that, like they would have a real opportunity to do things like that for cars. Like imagine your battery tech like being marketed as an Apple product or the software inside of it. I could see Apple moving into that space, but if you're talking about like the liability that they would have for a self-driving system, I mean, Apple doesn't want to be the brand that kills grandma in an accident.
That would not look good. Yeah. Interesting. I mentioned the YouTube growth. What I forgot to mention is that YouTube is actually growing at a faster rate than Netflix, twice the growth rate of Netflix. So
it's
stand
fascinating
back.
to compare those two because their business models are the same from a consumer standpoint, but also wildly different from a how they make the sausage perspective. YouTube kind of just sits back and lets all the content roll in. Well, certainly they do have first party productions, but by and large it's let everybody else shovel the coal in the furnace for them. Whereas Netflix is going out and investing millions of dollars into original productions around the world, which sounds so much harder than what YouTube has to do. But yet they're making, pretty soon they'll be making the same amount of revenue, and that to me is pretty fascinating.
Absolutely, Netflix is going to spend $17 billion to make new content. That's the driver for Netflix's success. YouTube just says, hey, y'all, make some videos, and we'll figure out which ones are the best with our algorithm, and then we'll put some ads on them. Cool. That is modern. That's what TikTok's doing. That's the modern way of doing things. That's Netflix is the old Hollywood model, which is you throw a lot of money at production, you make money on a handful of successes. I think Quibi proved that was not the way to do it in the digital era. YouTube is clearly the way to do it going forward.
Let me ask a question. Do we know what the current revenue split is for YouTube? Because it was 50-50, I believe, at one point. Is it still 50-50 for content creators?
Does YouTube reveal that? I don't even know. How did you find that out, Nate? Do you have a secret insider?
Interesting. Not to my knowledge, unless it came in somewhere
every
that I
creator
didn't
I've talked to says, because YouTube isn't telling them, and they're not saying, yeah, we sold the ad for $50 and we're going to give you $25. They don't say that. They just say, here's $25. Enjoy it, kid. Thank you very much. Okay. So I don't know if it's 50-50. It's certainly, look, if it's 50-50, that's a lot more than a 30% take that Apple takes out of the App Store. 50%. I wouldn't be surprised. Do we know? Does anybody know?
I think you do get a pretty good insight into what exactly it is, but I can say the rates are very low, compared to what we can get in-house through our own distribution.
Oh, yeah, you might know for your
videos.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure. I don't know if I can or should, but we certainly do have a pretty good insight. And yeah, I'd say it does make Apple look pretty generous in some
Here's
ways.
Jason Howell has looked it up on Investopedia, and this is what they say. There's a 45-55 split for all content creators. Google keeps 45%, and you get the remaining 55%. Let me see, though, where they get that information, because I feel like Google is a little cagey.
If you are a major content producer, they have partnerships and things like that, and it is possible to integrate ad sales as well, so you could bring your own pre-roll in some situations as well.
Yeah,
which changes the math to some degree as well. But for sure, it is to be generating a lot of views to kind of make up for the overhead.
Yeah. Yeah, so if Apple wants to defend its 30%, all they have to do is say, well, look what Microsoft and Sony charges in their stores. Look what YouTube charges in effect by taking 45% of the ads. 30%, that's not so bad.
What about Twitch? Isn't Twitch about a similar ratio?
I'm sure it's pretty competitive, right? It's got to be, right? Because if you're a creator, you're going to choose where you can make the most money. The thing about Twitch, there's also a lot of money in Twitch just from gifts from your viewers, right? That's a big part of it, not even ads.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Is that how you make a living, young lady? You sell your videos on?
I've thought about doing speedruns on Twitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, the speedruns, you should. They're too short, though.
You need long speedruns.
It takes hundreds of hours. My Resident Evil 3 save is up to like 300 hours.
Wow.
But that's not a speed run.
But you have to play it over and over to get good, Leo. You don't just walk in and you're like, I am the god of...
Do you feel like, though, is it a little grindy for those 300 hours? Like, I got to really work hard at this. This isn't fun anymore.
Do you know what it is? I have noticed it with a lot of other speed runners. We love EDM and we love music. And I think there's something about that repetition
you're listening
of
to
it.
music.
But it's the same part of your brain that likes that EDM and that pattern. It's like you get into this groove and it's soothing, but it's intense at the same time. That's my theory, at least.
That's interesting.
What's your fastest? Is it Super Mario?
Mario's my best world record, but I gotta tell you, I'm doing pretty well at Resident Evil. I'm cracking down on that one.
Wait a minute. Let me see if I can. Here we go. Oh, it's not a video. It's just a picture.
No. Oh, yeah. That's just.
Yeah, I want to see it. Fun fact, I'm pretty great at speedrunning Super Mario 2. I can beat the game. Now, this is what a speedrun is.
Oh, that's old. That's an old record. I'm way quicker than
You're
that.
way faster than that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is ancient history. This is all last year. You had all of pandemic to get good. How funny.
I was kind of trying to save the country for most of the pandemic.
Thank you very much. Give us a plug for
appreciate
Rebellion Pack. Yeah, thank you. What is Rebellion Pack? You couldn't talk about it when you founded it, but you can talk about it now, right?
That's true. Basically, we are working to get the right people elected. Right now, we're focused on helping Democrats keep the House and the Senate. We worked our butts off in Georgia, helping Warnock and Ossoff win. So if you want to support us, you can do that at helptherebellion.com.
I'm going to play this underneath your plug.
That's it. Oh, this is so old. Look, no.
Well, I just got to go with what's on YouTube, man. It's just what's on YouTube. You're faster.
This is a trash run. Look at this. No. Oh, this is garbage.
This is that February run. Well, you got something? You got something newer for me? You only have 24 subscribers on your YouTube channel. You got to start putting newer stuff up.
I put my real stuff on Vimeo. That's the reason why.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, you didn't bring that up in our conversation. Why do you do that?
The Vimeo, it lets, for longer games, it lets you dump vast amounts of video. So for a run like Resident Evil 3, which is a 53-minute run, it's just friendlier with that. It
takes you 53 minutes to
fast.
play through the entire Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, hold on. I'll drop it in Club Twit.
Oh, man. I want to see this. Is it scary? Is that a scary? It sounds like a scary game.
Yeah, of course it's scary. It's Resident Evil, dude.
Sounds scary. I don't know. All right. While you're doing that, let me tell you all about ZipRecruiter. Speaking of speedy, ZipRecruiter really speeds up your hiring. Get it? I'm talking about a good segue there. Finding somebody in your company, somebody to wear many hats or one very specific hat, is no easy task. But if you're hiring these days, thank you. The country needs you, and you need a better way to hire. ZipRecruiter finds people with the right experience for your job and then invites them to apply. You know, maybe you need to hire somebody, that could do it all. That's hard. Or you have a simple position, but it's taken forever to find somebody who fits your company culture. ZipRecruiter really helps in a number of ways. First of all, you could try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. But what happens is when you post on ZipRecruiter, the very first thing that happens is your listing goes to more than 100 job boards, social networks, social media like Facebook and Twitter. So you're casting the widest possible net. Now, you might say, well, yeah, I don't want all those people calling me. They don't call you. They don't email you. All of the applications go into your ZipRecruiter interface. You can have screening questions, so eliminate people who don't fit right away. Yes, no, true, false, multiple choice, even essay questions. They reformat all of the resumes, so it's easy to scan them. They even have a way to quickly rank all the applicants and pick the right person fast. But there's one other thing ZipRecruiter does that's fantastic. It actually they have on file, because people go there looking for jobs as well. They have on file hundreds of thousands of resumes. They'll look at them, look at your qualifications, and then invite people who've got the skills you need to apply, which means you're going to get a qualified applicant fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. In our experience, it's been within hours. So whether you need to hire a civil engineer in New York, an attorney in Colorado, or even a mascot in Missouri, yes, you can hire mascots. ZipRecruiter is the best. Try it right now for free at the Only Our Listeners Get It link, ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TWiT. ZipRecruiter really works. We know. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is Brianna Wu. I won't play all 54 minutes and 1 second of your Speedrun. Now, what level? Do you do this at the hard mode? How do you do this?
No, you do it at the easiest because then everyone has the least health possible. So skip like a couple of minutes in so you can just get the mad movement as you're going through.
It's a first-person shooter. There you are with a bazooka. Oh, shoot. Vimeo's buffer. Here we go. You're running. Is this a good place?
So this is, you ready the rocket launchers, you go downstairs because it saves you a couple of frames.
Oh, yeah. It's things like that, isn't it? It's the little things. It's much like ice racing.
So you have to be very careful when you step
I always have my
forward.
rocket launcher.
Get the rocket launcher loaded. Okay, now.
So
and my
watch
turtle
this.
shells.
How do you know who to shoot?
You roll through it. Oh, error.
You shoot all the zombies, right?
No, you don't want to shoot them because that takes time.
Ah.
So going around the
Your
corner,
goal is to
you
get
shoot
to
a
all
rocket.
of the points, but not necessarily. What are you trying to hit every locale?
You're trying to get from start to finish as quickly as possible.
So killing
So, like-
zombies is really a side track.
Watch how fast you do this puzzle. This is ridiculous. You have to memorize everything like this through the whole game. Yeah, I only have enough time through this radio conversation to enter all of this in.
Is this
Consider
always
it done.
the same?
Boom.
Wow.
Did it.
You opened the whole subway. Look at you. You go, girl. Do you have to do, is it the same every time or?
Yeah.
So you're basically memorizing the steps.
Yes. Quick turn up the stairs.
I like it that this character looks like you. I think that's hysterical. Is that just
I wish
chance?
I looked like Jill. No, I love Jill. She's an icon.
Jill's iconic. Can we stop for donuts? Do we have time?
No donuts.
Oh,
Gotta keep
man.
going.
Oh, ew.
So if you get hit for this part,
Yeah.
it puts you in a health state where you actually run faster. So I'm going to come through
So you
here.
have to, so you wanted to get bit.
Right. So you do that.
you're
You run
amazing.
through Nemesis.
Oh, my God.
And now I'm going to go up and
This
avoid
is
all these
cray
people.
cray. And I thought it was crazy digging a troll trench. This is cray cray. Do you stay up late doing this?
Yeah, I love this game.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. Lisa says, you can only play your game after I go to bed. Oh, ew. Ew. So it's like EDM, you're saying? It's just like soothing, like you're calm, and this is, it's not, you're not like nervous or, it's like, I'm just doing it.
You're scared you're going to mess your run up, right?
Right. But you know
Like,
what's
that's
coming
the fear.
next, so you don't.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen. Like, it's not scary.
Yeah. Wow. Do you ever think, gosh, if I put this much effort into my real life, I don't know what.
Yeah,
the subways would work
definitely.
better.
There have been times I've been like, I should stop speedrunning and do something else.
No, never stop speedrunning, Brianna. I should mention, you mentioned you posted this in the Discord. We do have a Discord now, but it's for Club TWiT members. Sorry. Club TWiT is our new paid tier for TWiT. Now, let me tell you, the whole point of Club TWiT is the ad-free versions. All of our shows, people were saying, Leo, why don't you have ad-free versions? All of our shows are ad-free on Club TWiT, including this ad that you're hearing right now. There'll be no ad for Club TWiT in your ad-free feed. I realized, why should I advertise? You're already a member. So you get all the shows ad-free. That's audio and video versions. And you get a special feed dedicated to you. You get access to a special feed called TWiT Plus, which is kind of the stuff that normally hits the cutting room floor, beginning and ending of shows, special events. How did poker night go, Anthony? Was that fun on Friday night? Anthony had a poker night. We're doing a Linux show in the Discord every Saturday afternoon, things like that. And then, of course, there's this fabulous Discord, which, frankly, we thought the ad-free version of the shows would be the selling point. But the Discord is this great community. We're having so much fun in here. All the shows have a chat section. There's also conversations about cars, books, coding, comics, data science, hacking, hardware, IoT, and on and on. We just added food and travel because I realized we didn't have food and travel. You can play games. We have a trivia game in here, chess game. But what's really good about this is the community. There's some really great people in here. We also do live streams of our shows in the Club TWiT. And I'm doing this on a stage. It looks a lot like Clubhouse. If you want to speak in one of our shows, you can raise your hand. And we get people on many of our shows via audio, so it's a lot of fun. All of that. How much would you pay? $7 a month. That's all. Just the cost of a frappuccino. $7 a month. Club TWiT. If you want to know more, There's no trial version, but you can try it for a month. It's month to month. You can cancel. Is at twit.tv/club twit. Twit.tv/club twit. It's really it turns out I've always loved the Twit community and having one more place we can gather. We still do all the free stuff, by the way. This didn't change any of the free tier. We still offer all the shows as we always have, ad-supported. We still have the twit.community forums, the twit.social mastodon. We still have the IRC at irc.twit.tv. That's all free. And it's going to stay that way, thanks to ad support and, of course, Club Twit. And my speedrunning, my Valheim speedrunning, which is going to be really, really great. Google's plan for the future of work. Did you? This, by the way, this is a New York Times, Sunday Times story, but you shouldn't read it in the paper because the article online has all these hysterical, I guess they're animated GIFs. So Google knows people are coming back, but they're redesigning how their campuses are going to work. Keep showing this because there's some fun stuff in different ways. For instance, when you go back, you might be in a new team pod where your team gets together in a blank canvas. There are chairs, desks, whiteboards, and storage units, but everything's on casters. So you arrange it as you wish. There are also these meeting room concepts. Here's one called Campfire. Camera in the middle. Some employees are still remote, so they're on avatars, kind of like we do Twit. Some people are in studio. We should do Twit like this. This looks cool. We could all sit around on plywood chairs. Then they've also built on the Google campus, because it's in Northern California where the weather's nice pretty much year round. They've built basically nature retreats. They took over a couple of parking lots. Each tent has a camp-themed name: kindling, s'mores, canoe. Camp Charleston has been open since March. Look at this. They've got Adirondack chairs.
California living.
Living is easy. Look at this little log coffee table. Just sit around. They're all socially distanced. Employees can return to their permanent desks on a rotation schedule, so they make sure nobody's sitting near you. Here's somebody pretending to work in kindling. Camp Charleston. I love Google. There's Wi-Fi throughout, of course. I'm sure it's very high speed.
I think my favorite one is the inflatable walls.
Let's look at
that down toward the bottom.
Let's look at the inflatable wall. This is hysterical.
Sped up, but it's so incredibly slow. It's like if you need some privacy, you wait for the inflatable wall, but you can see how quickly it's moving. The wall is just slowly creeping across to fill this void.
So there's a robot.
And slowly inflating.
There's a robot. I guess there's a button you press that says, I want privacy. The robot comes to you. I should go to the very beginning because it spreads itself out and then it's slowly, you're right. I mean, this is sped up. Slowly.
I'd like privacy 30 minutes from now.
This is like the pod people. This is like it's enveloping you. These Mylar kind of rainbow balloons are slowly. Here it is. There's the robot. Look at this. Is that creepy? This is Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
This is what they're using all the old loon hardware for, right?
Yeah, or maybe these are old loon balloons. That is so weird. So weird.
I think there are definitely some interesting concepts here, other than the incredibly slow inflatable wall. But I mean, I think it's a little bit unfortunate for me to see so many companies making these major investments trying to make their offices, this kind of hybrid work environment work, when so many people just want to stay home.
Let them stay home. Yeah.
There are all these huge investments being made to develop these systems that ultimately I don't think a lot of employees want. I think if these companies would just spend a little bit of money to let people get a nice office chair at home, if they would pay for them to upgrade to the gigabit Ethernet at home, then these people would be much happier just to stay there. The companies could save so much money on real estate. Their employees would be happier. There's study after study shows that people who get to work from home are more productive. They're more happy. They're much more likely to stay at their current jobs.
Much more likely to gain
these companies
weight.
keep trying to make this work? Yeah, there's that problem too. So it seems like a simple solution, and they're, instead of coming up with all these incredibly complicated solutions to the wrong problem, in my opinion.
It's hysterical. But this is so Google, isn't it?
But these are experiments, though, right? This isn't them saying we built a new office and this is how it's going to be. These are all like experiments to see, will any of these gel with people? Like, is this resonating? And then if they
I guess. I mean, this is the new Google campus they're building in Mountain View. This is no experiment. This is the real thing. They're kind of building this indoor park in Mountain View. They've taken over many hundreds of acres to do this. Some of it's experimental, but I think it's very Googly. These are the team pods.
It doesn't actually look that much different than the campus does already.
It's always been cuckoo with rainbow bicycles and
plywood furniture and of course the free food cafeterias and the bikes, of course.
Remember Facebook when they built their new campus? Mark said, "Don't finish painting, just kind of half paint it." There's a lot of exposed cement. It looks like it's like you. I guess. Do you think it's the young people don't want to work in a corporate environment? They want to work in something that looks like maybe downtown back alley. I don't really understand, but
I don't either.
I think you're being too cynical, Leo. When my husband creates a giant mess in the living room, I just want to dial up a robot and say, "I would like some privacy for this room."
Bring in the pod.
And I don't even see it.
That's hysterical. Speaking of YouTube, Roku and YouTube in a little tussle. Roku does this all the time now. I'm starting to lose credibility. They've removed YouTube TV from their channel store. So if you have, just a little public service warning, if you have YouTube TV and you use a Roku, don't delete it. It'll still work, but you won't be able to get it again. Roku's accused Google of this is so much like, I don't know, when you're at home, if you have a satellite provider, they put up a thing saying, CW is trying to get double the amount of money we pay, so we're not going to, 5 weeks, we're not going to carry CW. And people write letters. It's just BS negotiations. Roku's accused Google of seeking unfair terms. Unfair, I say, that would adversely affect streaming competitors and benefit the YouTube suite of apps. It's negotiations. It's all just negotiating.
Did this happen with Amazon a while back?
Yeah.
Or with Apple? Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Kindle. Yeah.
More often it happens with cable channels. ESPN, CW. You don't have any of this. You've got the BBC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you don't have to worry about this in the UK. But here in America, we've got TV. I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. All right, let's start picking on Amazon. You said it. Let's start picking on them. Profit soars 220% in quarantine. I'm sure I contributed.
All thanks to me.
Yeah. Between
you
Tim and me,
Leo, that was it.
Yep. My Amazon Echo, I have to turn this off. It gives me a notification when a package is on its way. But it's like, that's every day. So I don't really need to be. I turned off the new email notification years ago because, of course, there's new email. Of course, there's a package today. $108.5 billion in sales in the quarter, $8 billion in profit in the quarter. Not quite Google money, but, okay. Amazon's profit, of course, is completely, I always joke Jeff Bezos has a dial in his office and, let's turn the profit up a little bit here. But it exceeded Wall Street's expectations. Actually, they've been profitable ever since Bezos announced he was going to retire. Of course, the big bucks for Amazon is AWS. Amazon Web Service is a juggernaut, $13.5 billion in sales. Microsoft's cloud business up, but it's still, a fraction of what Amazon makes. $50 billion in capital expenditures here. This is what we were talking about, Brianna, in the last 12 months. So they're not just buying back stock. I don't even know if Amazon does buy back stock. That seems like something Bezos would never do.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see if their profits stay where they are. I mean, I never thought I'd be going, wow, I can't wait to go shopping for groceries. But that's exactly where I am. I've had everything delivered for over a year. And I'm curious if this is going to be like a permanent change for consumers or if it's not. I think
I'm curious too. You might say, oh, I got to go shopping. Go. Say, that's nice. Now I'm going to order from now on. Because you missed it, but then you realize, it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think it's
Amazon
gonna be
just opened a
interesting.
hair salon in London, so it's got some
What?
pretty.
Take off that hat, Nate. Let's see what they did to you. Are you hiding the Amazon haircut?
I tell you what. Let me just see exactly. No, my wife was cutting my hair for the last.
That's why you're wearing the hat. No, it looks good.
It's all right. My wife didn't do this. This one I had done because I was back on set
Professionally cut hair.
and I needed to look a little bit better on that set. But yeah, no, they opened a salon late April. I think it's predominantly maybe for employees, but I think it's opening up a bit more widely. It's in East London.
Anytime Amazon does something like that, you have to say, well, okay, is this a new field they want to get into? Remember those Amazon Go stores that they launched, employee only at first. Now they're spreading, and Amazon's saying they're going to sell that technology to regular grocery stores. Lisa and I were actually shopping at a grocery store the other day, and it's one of those grocery stores, Brianna, that has the self-checkout. And I said, oh, let's go to the self-checkout. She said, that never works. Every time I use it, somebody has to come over and fix it. So it's not, but Amazon's, you don't, and I said, well, someday you won't even have to go through a checkout line. The way Amazon works, they're just watching you all the time, and they see what you picked up and put in the cart, and they charge you probably before you leave the store. So saves a lot of time. Anyway,
Yeah,
I don't know if they'll do
I
that with the
haven't tried
haircut. Yeah. Is there anything new about the haircut? I think that you have virtual reality, right? You can see what it would look like.
They have Fire tablets, I think, in front of you, and it does like an augmented reality before and after. You can pick your, pick what you want to have done. I've not been yet. It literally opened like 2 weeks ago, and obviously with lockdown, it's been quite challenging. But I do intend to go at some point, probably for my next one. But they've been doing some really interesting stuff in Britain. Like they started opening grocery stores in high streets here, which they have done in the US beforehand. But they opened the first one in London about.
They're expanding.
2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, this is not a hobby. This is not an experiment at this point. This is a business. That's why you wonder when they open their hair salons. Do they have bathrooms, or do you pee in a bottle at the hair salons?
Well, in Britain, we like to have bathrooms in our hair salons.
This is a bad joke, and I obviously.
I'm gonna keep it going.
Thank you.
It's like half midnight here, so my my sense of humor is beginning to waver a little bit.
I don't blame you one cotton picking bit. You're not alone.
But personally, I take my own bottle just to be safe, in case I get caught short.
Samsung had an event in which they announced new laptops, including a Galaxy Book Odyssey with the RTX 3050 Ti, a gaming laptop which won't be available to the end of the summer. Are we excited? Do we care?
I mean, I care. I think a lot of these RTX 30 chips are very power constrained as far as what the even the
you have to
notebook
wonder what it
version
could
of
do in a laptop. Yeah,
I've seen studies that show the 3090 notebook version versus the 3070 notebook version versus the 3080, because the power is so constrained.
Yeah.
There's virtually no difference in performance.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, this is one of these things we need to wait for Anantech to look at it, tear it down, give us some real numbers. Don't believe the marketing hype on this stuff, y'all. Like, wait for the numbers to come out before investing your money.
You've got that beast. I presume you do your speed runs. Where do you do your speed runs? Do you do
it depends on what I'm doing it for. So that particular one was on the PS4. For an NES or SNES, you've got to play on original hardware or it doesn't count. The computer's only the computer's only there to basically record it. There are games like Doom where you can actually, a lot of the ways you cheat is by cranking the frame rate up to like 300 frames a second, and it lets you like bypass things with momentum, so you can like shoot all the way up the map if you can cheat your frame rate. So I should get more into that.
Would you ever game on a laptop, given what you've got on your desk?
Of course I would.
You would?
Of course I would, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's Civ and stuff like that.
Laptops are just taking over. I see so many people talking about gaming laptops these days, and I think, is that really a good choice? But Okay. Meanwhile, Amazon made money, Facebook made money, Apple made money, Google made money. Twitter stock plunges on user miss and low guidance. The company reported revenue of $1 billion. That was up 28%, but it wasn't enough to get the stock market excited. The total number of monetizable, this is a new stat, monetizable daily users. It did grow by 7 million to 199 million, but far short of analysts' expectations. Now, 199 million is not a lot of users, especially when you think of Facebook, which is what? It's got to be close to 3 billion now, right?
Yeah. I guess it all depends on scale. I bet, for a company like Basecamp, they've got to be happy to have 190 million users.
I don't think they should be happy to have somebody at the Basecamp. I think 15 employees left this week.
I heard that. There's been some drama.
15 employees.
1/3 of their staff.
So in case you haven't been following this, Casey Newton had kind of an expose on Platformer, his new Sovereign Writer blog, in which it turns out Basecamp, which is run by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson, they're considered kind of innovators in new ways to work. In fact, Jason wrote a book called Rework, all about the new ways of work, and they're considered very woke and with it and hip. But apparently, they shut down conversations on the company's internal Basecamp about race issues, about diversity issues. They basically said, no more talk about this. And employees are pissed.
Yeah. I suspect, this is just me, I suspect it's about more than this. And before commenting on Basecamp, I really want to make it clear. I use these products. I use Hey. I love it. We use Basecamp at Rebellion. And I feel like sometimes people root for companies to fail like it's a sport. And these are institutions that people put their lives into.
And I know Jason, or I've interviewed Jason and David both many times. David Heinemeier Hansson created Ruby on Rails. Right. Jason, it was originally 37 Signals. I have huge respect for them. Yeah. And we don't really know what happened. We know what Casey Newton said it happened based on interviews with employees. To his credit, Jason did say, if you don't like the new policies, we will offer you a generous severance package. So that's probably why 15 employees took advantage. Actually, it's 18 now. 18 people have tweeted that they're going to leave. Might have to do more with the severance pay than anything else.
But these were key people, Leah. This was the entire iOS team. This was their chief marketing person. These were
head of
key
design,
people,
head of customer support.
And just to give a little bit more background to your listeners and viewers, what had happened was there was a person at Basecamp, according to Casey Newton, and David has verified this. They kept a list of, quote, the best names ever.
Names that were so horrific, no one will tell us what they were.
Well, some of them were silly, according to Newton. Things like, Bart Simpson's prank call names.
Well,
right?
so just to be clear, so these are names people signed up for Basecamp with, probably mostly phony joke names.
Right.
Casey compared them to, when Bart calls Mo the bartender and says, can I speak to Hug and Hold?
Seymour Butts.
Mr. Butts. Mr. Butts. Seymour Butts. Seymour Butts, there's a call for you. And it's an old prank thing. He compared it to Seymour Butts and Amanda Hug and Hold.
Right.
But I think that the fact that no one will say what these names were, I think they're probably racist. They're sexist. They're probably awful, right?
Yeah, probably. It's probably making fun of it. But my guess here is, David and, they're both people who I respect them professionally, but let's be honest. They have a little bit of ego in the way that they conduct themselves in their professional roles, right? And David particularly, we had him on a show basically picking a giant public fight with Apple, which we supported with Hey.
You remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I suspect this isn't just about a list or shutting down politics at work. My feeling that I get, if you really read into some of these tweets, is it's about a wider company feeling that they didn't feel heard by their founders. Particularly the diversity committee that they had started, a lot of people on that committee said that they didn't feel they had a voice where they could make an impact on the company. So I think this is just frankly about a lot more than talking about politics at work.
It must be. I was reading the letter that they sent out, the blog post that they sent out, and honestly, I could see myself writing this. To be honest, I'll give you the quote, one of the quotes. Today's social and political waters are especially choppy. Sensitivities are at 11, and every discussion remotely related to politics, advocacy, or society at large quickly spins away from pleasant. You shouldn't have to wonder if staying out of it means you're complicit or wading into it means you're a target. These are difficult enough waters to navigate in life, but significantly more so at work. It's become too much. It's a major distraction. It saps our energy and redirects our dialogue towards dark places. It's not healthy. It hasn't served us well, and we're done with it on our company Basecamp account where the work happens. People can take the conversations with willing coworkers to Signal, WhatsApp, or even a personal Basecamp account, but it can't happen where the work happens anymore. I could see writing that.
Yeah.
I understand that. Those conversations can become very problematic, toxic, difficult, uncomfortable, and people are trying to get work done. So I could see saying that.
I think there's a hard discussion to be had about, how can I put this so people don't yell at me? There is a difficult conversation to be had about toxic activism. And, I personally see this a lot online. And the way I can square it in my Twitter presence sometimes is when someone's screaming at you, I think it really comes down to them telling you, I matter, I hurt, I'm not being heard, this is important.
That I understand.
But I also think it's true. It comes out in some ways that, especially in the workplace, like I run a political PAC. We make political ads. I very deliberately don't ask people who they vote for. We try to keep it much more about the product versus what we ourselves think, right? So I do think there's a discussion to be had here about how we go about it. I suspect that this company, Basecamp, just wasn't one where the companies felt like they could have a productive conversation.
And me, being the cynic, might think it's point 2 in the blog post, where he says, for years we've offered a fitness benefit, a wellness allowance, a farmer's market share, and continuing education allowances. They felt good at the time. We've had a change of heart. It's none of our business what you do outside of work. It's not Basecamp's plan to encourage certain behaviors regardless of good intention. Basically, they ended those benefits. Now they're going to give them cash instead, which, is fair. I think this sounds like a good workplace, to be honest with you. I feel like there's more to the story than we saw in the Casey Newton article. They also eliminated committees. Not bad. No more 360 reviews. Those are horrible. And it's good to get rid of those. That's peer feedback. That's where people shoot at each other anonymously. Not good. I think Jason and David are thoughtful. But as I think the hey.com thing was a good example of David, kind of being a little abrasive in maybe somewhat inappropriately. He also, remember, he was the guy who tweeted, my Apple Card gave me a much higher credit limit than my wife, even though we should have the same credit. It's unfair. Apple actually had a big investigation. FTC had a big investigation. They cleared Goldman Sachs just recently on that. So these guys are, they're big people, big personalities. And when you work at 37 Signals or Basecamp, you're really working just as you would be at TWiT, inside the sphere of their personality. And maybe it grates a little bit. I understand.
It definitely reeks of hubris and ego to me as well, like Brianna said. And I feel like that is really contradictory to what you need to have good management. And this whole thing just reeks of, HR disaster, of them really not having the structure and the framework, the support system in place to ensure that employees feel like their voices are being heard. If you're having to shut down a portion of discussion, sure, I can definitely see why you might feel the need to do so, but to do it in such a heavy-handed way and to do it in a public way like this, whereas, presumably maybe there were some individuals who were, more outspoken than others who were causing issues. These are situations that should be taken care of in a one-on-one, a direct way, rather than just, dropping the ban hammer on basically the entire company and thinking that's going to go down well. And obviously it didn't. But yeah, it just reeks of poor management skills to me.
It's the ban hammer. That's actually a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, you would want to, and not in public either. You would want to do this in a more subtle, responsive way than just say, shut up, I don't want to hear it, go away. It's tricky. It's no fun running a company, I can tell you that right now. That's why I let Lisa do all the hard work. I just sit here on my duff and talk. Let's do another break, and then we'll be back with more. What a great panel. Tim Stevens is here. Tell me about Roadshow. It's just all cars all the time?
Yeah, Roadshow is CNET's automotive section, so pretty much we are focused on everything to do with automotive. Of course, technology is a huge part of what we cover with cars, but we cover everything: driving dynamics, performance, efficiency, and what's latest and greatest on personal mobility as well, Uber and Lyft and all that good stuff. So
I see you're talking.
Yeah, everything to do with mobility.
Talking about NASCAR and Spotify's $80 car thing. Have you tried that?
I have not had the opportunity to do so yet. No.
Yeah.
We're hoping to get our hands on one soon, though.
Here's
and motorcycle stuff, too.
Oh, nice. The Indian Challenger. Wow, that's cool.
Click on the article about car ramps. I need some of those. No.
The best car ramps. See, they really cover the waterfront. Best car ramps for 2021. Okay. Apparently that Black Widow, man, that's good. That's not a good name for a car ramp, however.
It is not, actually. At least not a Widowmaker.
It's a Widowmaker, yeah. Rhino Gear's got the best, most affordable because they're about 30% less than the Black Widow.
That's what I've got in my garage.
Yeah. Race ramps if you got a low-profile car. Is your car low rake, Brianna? I believe it is.
Well, it is. I'm redoing an air conditioner right now in a 1986 Porsche 911 Carrera, which involves a lot of being under the car because the lines are like gone after 34 years. So, I definitely need that.
I think you need the Tech Tonga 3-ton wide car service ramp. That's what I think.
There we go.
That's what I'd get if I were you there, Brianna. Yeah, that's a great car ramp there. That's the kind of, we always use down at your shop because this is hysterical. I can't, look at that. Look at that. Oh, yeah, that's a ramp. You could see the welds. It's not a ramp unless you could see the welds. That's what I'm talking about. This is a CNET product, Roadshow by CNET. Tim is the boss, the guy in charge. This is a good thing for you, isn't it, Tim? You get to talk about cars all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved cars, and when I was a kid, I didn't think that automotive journalism was really a job that real people had because could you really make a go at that? Would people really pay you for that? But yeah, I mean, obviously, technology journalism was huge for me, and being able to do that for a long time has been great. But yeah. Automotive has always been my first passion, so to have the chance to really focus on that for the past 6 years now has been incredible.
Yeah. Well, and cars really are high-tech devices now. I mean, more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's been great to watch that transition, at Engadget and that now here at CNET to starting with, covering Microsoft and partnering with Ford on Sync, and then, everything kind of blowing up from there has been a great ride.
Oh, and by the way, Chumley has just said, this is what you need, Brianna. You need the Quick Jack BL5000.
I've looked at that. That's actually one
I have one of those too.
You have one of those too?
I do have one of those.
Oh, Lord.
The problem is it takes like 3 weeks to get one of these. So I'm going to wait till I'm on vacation. Then I'm going to order it, and then it will be at my house when I come back.
Their customer service is a little questionable, I got to say, but I can give you some pro tips on that front.
Do you still use jack stands when you use that, or do you feel comfortable
don't actually.
with this? Okay.
I feel pretty comfortable with it. There's some backups in there, locks in place pretty good.
All right.
Boy, when I got up this morning, the last thing I thought I'd be doing today on Twitter is talking about car jacks. But that's what I love about this show. You just never know.
Brianna and I said we were going to hijack the show, and I think we did a pretty good job so far.
You carjacked it. Our show today brought to you by Mint Mobile. I got my iPhone SE from Mint Mobile, plugged in that Mint Mobile SIM, and now I'm wondering, why do I go anywhere else? And I have to say, when I first heard about Mint Mobile, I thought, really? $15 a month? After years of fine print contracts getting ripped off by the big wireless providers. we've learned at least one thing. There's always a catch. So when I heard that Mint Mobile offers a premium wireless service for $15 a month, I thought, wait, what's the catch? But after speaking with them, and most importantly, after using their service, it all made sense. In fact, I said, wait a minute, they've got a $30 a month unlimited plan. This is incredible. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. No stores, no crazy overhead. The savings get passed down to you, and that is huge. Sweet savings. It's just, these guys, they cut costs like crazy. What they don't cut is service. Premium wireless service. All the plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. It's T-Mobile. Don't tell them I told you. It's T-Mobile. They're an MVNO. So what you're doing is, instead of paying, by the way, for the exact same service, I pay T-Mobile 3 times more for the exact same service. So instead of doing that, why not? They'll send you the SIM. They don't even charge you for that. I just think it's fantastic. This is a great company offering a great deal. You can use your own phone. You could port your phone number over just like that. It's very easy. So you'll keep your same phone number. You'll keep your same contacts, but you'll get a great phone. They also sell phones. That's where I got the iPhone SE. That was $15 a month, $15 a month in service. So for $30 a month, I get a new phone and great service. I mean, this is incredible. Incredible. If you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. I liked it so much. The service was so good. Switch now to Mint Mobile to get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to you for free. Go to mintmobile.com/twit. That's mintmobile.com/twit. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. mintmobile.com/twit. That's all you have to know. Mint Mobile is great. I stand behind it. Let's see. Oh gosh, there's so many stories. Let's move quickly. As long as we're talking about cars, GE rolls out seamless EV charging across multiple networks. They call it Ultium Charge 360. This is one of the issues, of course. Anybody who buys an electric car that's not Tesla is concerned, well, where am I going to charge it when I'm away from home? Tesla's got the supercharger network. But now, thanks to Electrify America and all the charge point, there's a lot of them, EVgo. GM says we're going to solve this by allowing you to use any of these fast charging systems. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's starting to get easier. Not that long ago, and really for most people today, you still need to have 3 or 4 different apps on your phone, and maybe carry around a couple different membership cards with you, and you really need to subscribe to all these in advance if you're really going to do a road trip, because you never know what you're going to find along the way. And you can't be sitting in the parking lot there trying to type your credit card number in and subscribe to some service. So that really needs to get much easier, and that's really what GM is doing. Porsche is also doing this as well, and the goal is ultimately to standardize things enough that you can really just plug your car in and that all your credentials will be stored on your car.
That's what Ford does with the Mach-E. They've got Ford Pass. So in fact, they gave me 500,000 kilowatt hours. So it's a couple of $1,000s worth of electricity to start. You plug it in. The car, the charger, I was just at Electrify America the other day for our hands-on tech show. The car says, hello, it's me, it's Leo. It worked perfectly. The machine said, "Oh, great! You don't have to enter anything. We know who you are," and they bill you, and it's automatic. And that's exactly how that's how it was with the supercharger network. It's just the way it should be.
There's a story that came out this week. Tim, was this one of yours? Maybe I'm misremembering it, but it was asking why I believe it was 20% of people that buy an electric vehicle eventually go back to a gas engine.
What?
Now, interestingly, it's not Tesla people.
Yeah.
It is people that buy like the Nissan Leaf or some of the earlier like Ford versions
the compliance
of it.
Cars.
Right. And the number one reason was charging it was a hassle, particularly if you live in an apartment complex or something like that. It's not the technology, it's the infrastructure.
Well, that's understandable. Actually.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Porsche, before they brought out the Taycan, they announced a massive investment. If I remember correctly, it was close to $1 billion in charging infrastructure through the United States. So I think that, all of us here, we take this problem seriously, and I think that getting that infrastructure right is just absolutely going to be key.
Elon was, I have to say, and Elon's a very funny guy because sometimes he's brilliant, sometimes he's incredibly stupid. But he was brilliant in that. He said, we're not going to sell any Teslas unless it's easy to charge. And he knew that he had to build that supercharger business at the same time as he's building the Tesla business. It was actually absolutely right.
What's fascinating to me is how much of that is a psychological game. Most people who
charge
own a
at
Tesla
home.
really won't really need to use a supercharger ever.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll use it once or twice a year. And so the revenue model on charging stations is kind of questionable because most people really, again, won't need them. But they need to exist for people to feel comfortable enough to buy an EV.
It's psychological.
And that's really a huge challenge. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important that Volkswagen has been pouring so much money into Electrify America, unwillingly, but they've been doing it at least, to establish that network to make it easier and to make people feel more comfortable about using those chargers.
We have, across the street, there's an outlet mall with a couple of two different Chatamo companies and a fast charger from Electrify America. And I've never used it because I just plug it in when I get home. It just makes sense. Hey, speaking of Elon and SpaceX and used cars, I'm going to tie this all together. SpaceX made its first nighttime splashdown. It was beautiful. Let me see if I can rewind this video because it was incredible.
Of the Crew 1 resilience capsule.
Look at that. Middle of the night. Panama City, 3 a.m. in Florida. Wow. Crew Dragon. And the UV light on those parachutes, you're right, John. That's gorgeous.
Parachutes to attach some buoys.
SpaceX first nighttime splashdown with astronauts since 1968.
They are feeling well, and that's quite a feat in itself.
This is from NASA TV.
Oh, wow.
But this is a used capsule. And this is one of the things Musk has done. I actually was asking our space guy, Rod Pyle, who's with the Space Society, is it really a savings? And he said, there's maybe, look, he's happy. He's happy to be back. Doing a little happy dance as he gets out of the capsule. That's really awesome. Reusing does save a considerable amount of money. And it's also just seems more environmentally friendly not to just get rid of these capsules. So that Dragon capsule had been used once before, the Crew Dragon, and refurbished. They cleaned out the ashtrays. I think they hosed down the upholstery, so it's practically new. It's fresh. It's clean.
I'll give you when I'm in Florida a little bit more than a week from now. We're going to spend 2 days at NASA. So,
are you going to get to see a launch?
We're going to try to see what's going on down there. But the last time I was there, if I remember correctly, SpaceX was looking at taking over the pad that they used to launch the Challenger, which was. Yeah, that was a huge moment for me as a child. So
watching
really
it
looking forward
blow
to
up.
seeing it.
Yeah, very sad.
It was traumatic.
You were a child?
Traumatic. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Of course you were. What am I thinking? Let's see. Florida has passed a law. That's all you have to say. Florida has passed or is about to pass a law that will ban tech companies from deplatforming politicians. Of course, it's unconstitutional because I do believe there is an amendment to the Constitution. I think it's the first one in the Bill of Rights that says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Of course, this is a state. There's also interstate commerce because Twitter and YouTube and Facebook aren't in Florida. Anyway, they could be fined for banning political candidates. It's expected to be signed. It's passed the Florida legislature, and I'm sure Ron DeSantis will sign it.
I guess what's next is if he doesn't like your commentary on this, he's going to pass another law saying
ban Twit.
You've got to say what he likes on Twit.
Yeah.
This is hot garbage. I mean, this is just trash. Part of being a politician is dealing with criticism and working with systems. I can tell you firsthand, I don't particularly like the Boston Globe. I had to work it's just ridiculous. The government trying to tell a private company who they have to facilitate and who they don't. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Florida House voted 77-38 in favor. The Senate 23-17. It would allow suspensions of up to 2 weeks, and service can remove individual posts if they violate the terms of service. But if you, quote, deplatform a political candidate, in other words, permanently delete or ban them, as Twitter and Facebook did to the former president, you could be fined up to $250,000 a day for statewide candidates and $25,000 a day for the little guys. I think this is not going to survive a test in court, but
I agree.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to cherry pick the good stuff. I feel bad for Volkswagen. This is a roadshow story. Volkswagen did their April Fool's joke just a little bit early, announcing that Volkswagen America was going to be rebranded as Volt, V-O-L-T, Volkswagen America. Apparently the SEC is now investigating. Come on. On what grounds?
This was bad. Basically that... well, of course, that there was an impact to the stock price based on this release, and so therefore the company valuation went up based on fake news. Yeah. The reason that I think you should not feel bad for Volkswagen is because they really sold this. I've been covering tech journalism for a long time now. I've survived many an April Fool's Day. I've never seen a company do what Volkswagen did.
It was not
to
a
make
joke.
This seem believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time in the history of my doing tech and automotive journalism, if I ever had a doubt that a story was real or not, I would get on the phone with a representative and say, "Hey, seriously?" And they'd say, "Of course not. It's April Fool's. This is a joke." On the record, off the record, we were told up and down, this is absolutely legit. And the way that they structured and timed the releases to go out, this release accidentally leaked, quote unquote leaked, the same time as another embargoed press release that was supposed to go out. They did everything to perfection to make this look like an actual story. And then swore up and down that it was true. So we bought it. I feel terrible that we did. We reported on this as fact, as did most other major journalistic outlets in the world. And yeah, there was a tangible increase in the valuation of Volkswagen for the day that actually persisted long after the reports came out that this was indeed fake. So that's why the SEC is involved. I'm very curious to see what the reaction is going to be to this because I'm frankly, you can probably tell, I'm still pretty mad about the way that this shook down.
You were burned, man.
Yeah, exactly. We were burned. And that's the first time that I've ever been burned like this. And I hope that it never happens again.
Wow. I didn't realize that they went on the record with reporters saying it's not a joke. I know that they put that in the press release, but that's not right. That breaks your relationship. And Volkswagen has some problems already.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that Volkswagen lying to people about taking electrification very seriously and taking emissions very seriously, who thought that was going to be a funny thing that we would all be laughing about? The whole point of April Fool's Day is, hey, this is cute, this is fun, this is entertaining. You're Volkswagen, who's still really walking around with a black eye thanks to Dieselgate and everything else around there, is now joking about taking emissions cutting very seriously. I don't know what they thought was going to come from this, but certainly a lot of negative is coming for it, and I hope that more continues to.
We all know.
What's so frustrating is, a lot of the technology that Porsche is doing with the Taycan is going to filter through, Audi and Volkswagen, which is part of the same auto group. They have a really promising future ahead of them here. And it's not just like the stock risk that they're doing. It's so counterproductive to burn relationships with people like you, because I bet when that technology does filter down, Tim, you're not going to be taking that phone call as fast as maybe you were a year ago.
And that week, I was literally working on a review of the ID4, which is Volkswagen's new EV in the U.S., which is a fantastic car. So, I had to put all that baggage in the back seat, literally, and swallow my pride to say, this is a really, really good car that Volkswagen has produced here. This is an excellent EV. If you were looking for a first EV, this is a really great choice. But, meanwhile, I'm feeling incredibly, upset at the company for their handling of this whole shebang. So, yeah, it made things very, very complicated, and it still is to some degree.
I really think we have to call time on April Fools news stories.
Yes.
Unless they are
Seconded.
they should be ludicrous.
So ridiculous they couldn't possibly be true.
Yeah.
And they can only come out on April 1st.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen some great products announced on April 1st, like Gmail, wasn't it? Everyone thought that was an April Fool's because a gigabyte of free email storage or something. But yeah, I mean, but they should be ludicrous, and we should praise who did the most ludicrous over the top thing for something that actually could be real. Maybe at this time, it's just not appropriate anymore. It just, the damage can be too great.
Google put a hiatus on April Fools. It was famous for its April Fools for years, both last year and this year. Let's make that a permanent thing, Google.
Yeah,
you know what?
They did Pigeon Rank. It was ludicrous.
It was funny. It was obviously not true. Or the toilet internet. Or obviously not true. But really, it's us. It's tech journalists who get burned the most by this because you can't open the paper on you can't look at tech meme on April 1st because you just don't know what's going to be real and what's not. And sometimes they're so subtle.
We get emails, at Bloomberg, and I'm sure at CNET and other places too. Like, we get emails going out from our bureau chief saying it's April 1st. Be extra vigilant.
Be afraid.
You know,
I send those emails.
And in a day and age where you see people on Facebook and Twitter resharing Onion articles as real, there's a real hazard to this. People don't necessarily have a sense of humor or any sense of any judgment about whether this is ridiculous. Like this story, I think this is ridiculous. You've all seen this picture. The famous meme, they call it Disaster Girl. She was a 4-year-old girl. The truth behind the story is actually, it looks like she's looking at her house burning down and giving you kind of an evil side glance, like, see what I did? In fact, the girl in this picture, Zoe Roth, and her father, Dave Roth, went over to watch a house being burnt down. This was actually a fire department controlled burn on purpose. He took this picture in 2005, of course, immediately went viral. It is now an NFT, a non-fungible token. I thought we were done with NFTs, to be honest with you. But Disaster Girl decided to sell her meme. She's now 21. She got $500,000. You don't own the picture. I mean, I guess you technically do. They will get 10% of resale value, which is nice. They maintain copyright, which is nice. They haven't really given anybody anything. She says she's going to pay off her college loans and then donate the rest to charity. She's a student at UNC in Chapel Hill.
I think she should keep that money guilt-free. That's just me.
Take it. Take the money and run.
Totally should.
Yeah.
But man, I have so many conflicted feelings. I think it's great that she was able to turn this into such a financial win. That's fantastic. But man, I still have so many queasy feelings about NFTs and the fact that you're buying a URL is kind of terrifying.
If somebody's willing to spend $500,000, it's on them. Good for you, Disaster Girl. Next, I think Star Wars Kid is going to sell his lightsaber video. I mean, all these people who are in memes whose lives have been completely ruined by being a meme, they should get something for it.
Absolutely, they should.
I can make a Gamergate NFT. That's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Will Pepe the Frog feature large in that? Yeah.
Exactly. We'll do it. No, but in all seriousness, I think the problem that I have with NFT, like we all agree it's terrible for the environment. The problem I have with this is that the underlying architecture of the protocol with it doesn't make sense. A lot of the people selling NFT, the way that it's coded is it's basically just pointing to a URL.
Right.
Well, what happens if that URL for that video disappears? Right. You can do it in such a way that it's more dynamic in the way.
You could use IPFS or something like that. Be better ways to do this,
But it's not the reality of how many of these are being sold. So I think there need to be standards for this. And frankly, none of it's worth anything until there's some sort of legal copyright that the owners hold that is validated by the courts. So I'm very skeptical that these are going to have value in the future. But I also think it's true that because of the the income inequality. There are a lot of people that have assets around, and they're like, where do I put this where it could possibly make money? And it's like just a high risk bet for some people. Will it pay off? I don't think so, but maybe it will.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this hit the courts. I'm completely with you. Like, bring it. I'll be there with the popcorn, with my feet up, just watching the madness unfold. Because I agree, it's a fad, it's ridiculous, but if someone wants to make $500,000 selling a picture, my hat is off to you, except that it isn't, because it's ridiculous and my hat will stay on my head.
As long as we're in the meme field, do you remember Bat Kid, the kid in San Francisco who was dying of cancer, and they organized this wonderful kind of event where he ran around as Batman, and he did also, he threw the first pitch at the Giants game, and all sorts of things. He is healthy and thriving, and now cancer free. Wow. So isn't that awesome?
That's amazing.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you for passing that along, Retcon. As long as we're talking memes, let's talk happy memes. An Oscar for Facebook and Oculus and Electronic Arts. Colette, a documentary short. The first Oscar. Now, nobody watched the Oscars, so I'm not surprised if you didn't know this. It had the lowest ratings in the history of the Academy Awards, which is, it used to be a religious holiday in my household. We'd have parties, we'd have ballots, but having an Oscar ceremony in a train station with a DJ, it just felt like a bad wedding. And but anyway, a 25-minute film following former French resistance member Colette Marin Catherine as she travels to Germany for the first time in 74 years. It's a VR experience, and it's the first, I think it's got to be the first Oscar for a virtual reality experience. Boy, I mean, the world is changing. A couple of years ago, was it Spielberg was saying you shouldn't ever be eligible just for an Oscar on a streaming film. Netflix won what did they win? They won 7 or 8 Oscars? I think Spielberg's lost that one. How much did Verizon pay for Yahoo and AOL? About $9 billion. How much are they going to get? They're selling it. They expect maybe $4 billion. Couldn't happen to a nicer company. I thought rebranding it Oath would fix it all, right? Oh, I love to kick people when they're down. Are you kidding me?
I shouldn't comment on this, probably.
Oh, you work for somebody. Are you going to be sold? Are you part of the... Is CNEP? No. Verizon's going to keep you.
We're happy and healthy at our new home now. No, yeah, I was part of the AOL group for a good long while. At Engadget. Yeah. So I of course, have many friends over there, and I hope that this all works out well for them.
So CNET is owned by Red Ventures now, right?
We're owned by Red Ventures, right?
Yeah. I think they're going to be good for you, honestly.
They have been so far. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Looking good.
Tumblr, remember, bought Yahoo, or rather, Verizon bought Tumblr as part of Yahoo for $1.1 billion. Sold to WordPress for $0.015, I think. It was well below $20 million. The Huffington Post, Verizon sold that to BuzzFeed. I mean, it's a fire sale. And
to be fair, the purchase of AOL came with a lot of ad sale technology, and I'm sure I don't know whether that's changing hands. So it may not be a 1-to-1 on what they bought versus what they're selling. So it's really easy to look at these things. Look at they rode this thing into the ground. Now they're selling it for pennies. But there may be some technology that is being held, and therefore the value is still within the company. But I don't know the details of this, and I guess nobody does outside of the transaction.
And the Wall Street Journal article did say parts of, so that kind of confirms that some of the good stuff they may keep. On the other hand, the New York Police Department is not keeping their robot dog.
Oh, God.
They're returning it after critics seized on it as a dystopian example of overly aggressive policing. You think?
I think this is another example of poor marketing. Like we were talking about Google Glass before, how Google just threw it out there and ignored all the privacy concerns. If the NYPD had launched a series of commercials showing how the robodog can go into a burning building and save, keep people from having to go into dangerous situations, I think the reaction probably would have been pretty significant. Instead, there was that one picture of this dog or one video of the dog walking out of an apartment that nobody expected, and everyone was freaking out because of it. And rightfully so, because suddenly it just showed up on the sidewalk and nobody knew where it came from.
Well, look
if
at the
there was a little bit of
subtext.
marketing, it would have been
Yeah, they were doing it at a housing project,
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best.
During the Black Lives Matter protests, right?
Exactly.
So if
Yeah,
your
very
response to something like that is, "Hi, let's bring out our surveillance technology that looks like a Moto Terminator," that's just not. I feel I'm not a PR professional. Maybe there are other things you could do.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah. This is something I hadn't really, there's so many things to worry about in the future. This is not one I had thought we would be worrying about. Geographers are warning deepfake satellite imagery poses a not-so-distant threat. This is according to James Vincent in The Verge. Geographic deepfakes? Nothing to say about that. I just thought I'd warn you.
Is that where you put Tom Cruise's house on top of somebody else's house?
Exactly.
I'm gonna deepfake.
I don't see the problem with that.
I'm gonna deepfake like a disco floor in your backyard, Leo. It's gonna be out there forever.
Nobody will believe it. Nobody would believe it. Actually, I wouldn't mind a disco floor in my backyard as long as it had good ramps, truck ramps on it, so that I don't know where I'm going.
Got to get
that
those
one.
exposed welds.
Yeah, got to get those exposed. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are wonderful. I thank you so much for being here. Brianna, I didn't give Nate a chance to, I gave you all a chance to plug, but I didn't give Nate Langston a chance. Tell us about Bloomberg and especially about this new thing that you're doing. I think it's it's not that new. You talked about it before, the quick take.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an editor at Bloomberg, so I cover a lot of the European tech scene. But I do a lot of video now for Quick Take, which is sort of our slightly more youth focused version of Bloomberg, but it's like if the rest of Bloomberg is markets and stocks, then Quick Take is for current events and is much broader in scope. And I do a lot of sort of consumer tech stuff for that. I've done things like salmon farms up off the coast of the Orkney Islands in Scotland getting equipped with 5G to monitor.
Oh, that's hysterical! Wow,
the health of
sheep,
salmon.
Oh, salmon. Okay.
Salmon, yeah. So sailed out into the North Sea for that one.
Wow.
Lots of other stuff. So it's a big part of what I do. And then on the side of that, I do my podcast,
Text Message, which is great. Webby Award shortlisted technology podcast.
And you know what? We lost to you, Leo, that year.
I know.
We lost. We were down. We were down to.
You think I don't know that, Nate?
I know.
You think I don't run around with that trophy every day? Said beat him. No, I don't.
Hey, they still sent me a framed certificate. I've got it.
Yeah.
Up there in the corner of the
Look,
studio.
all you missed out was a metal spring. That's what the Webby
paid for.
Is that what it was?
And I think that we lost in the vote, but the People's Choice brought us back or something. I can't remember exactly how that happened, but it's a great podcast. How long have you been doing it?
About 6 years. I started it when I left Wired because I ran the Wired podcast. I started that at Wired, did a couple of hundred episodes. Then when I moved to Bloomberg, I thought I was going to do so much more on the core business and finance that I would do less on the kind of consumer and irreverence that I kind of like. I like entertaining people with tech news as well as being informed about it. But so I started it when I joined, and I've just kept doing it ever since. So we've done like 230 something episodes.
And we kind of copied you because you're doing with Extra Message pretty much the same thing, the ad-free version, the Discord and all that. Are you using Patreon or Memberful? What are you using for that?
We use Patreon, and we've been doing that now for about 4 years. I took a lot of inspiration from basically Tom Merritt at Daily Tech News Show.
DTNS does that. Yep.
ex of your parish, of course. He was very helpful and gave me a lot of good pointers when we started up. But that's sort of gone on to have its life of its own now. So that's
we're really having a lot of fun with the Club TWiT. It's just, and what's great is building a community is so much fun, and we have a great community, but we just haven't had good ways to kind of interact with them. So it's really, really nice to do that. Thank you so much for being here, Nate. I know it's late, like the middle of the night. Thank you for staying up with us. I really
it's 1 a.m., but it's my pleasure.
We really love having you on. You're great. Same for you, Tim Stevens. It's been too long. We'll get you back real soon. Editor-in-Chief at Roadshow.
Thanks, Leo.
At CNET. And of course, the wonderful Brianna Wu. RebellionPack.com if you want to find out what she's up to. And will you make an announcement sometime? And Rocket. Don't forget
We've
Relay
won
FM.
No awards, no Webby Awards, never been nominated.
It is
the Relay's worst show, but we like it.
Oh, it's easily, well, I don't want to say because I have lots of friends on Relay.fm, but I really love Simone de Rochefort, Christina Warren, and Brianna Wu. That is
so good.
Panel to die for. It's just great. They also have a membership, so find out more. Relay.fm/rocket. Latest episode, Triple Scam Town.
Oh, that was good. We love covering scams. That's our beat. Like when there was 3 scams that week. So it was like a 3-alarm fire.
You talked also about the McDonald's ice cream machine story. That is a fascinating story.
That's a scam. That is a scam, in my opinion.
Yeah. What is it? Taylor that makes those machines?
Taylor. Yep.
And the things are so hideously complex that they're almost always broken. So much so that somebody wrote a bot to try to order a McFlurry at every McDonald's in the country, and then it's an updated map of which McFlurry machines are down. But then another couple created a Raspberry Pi device that would make these things much more reliable. They were trying to do a frozen yogurt bot, and Taylor completely came down on it. They hired a PI. It's a fascinating story. So that's a good episode to listen to.
The reason it qualified for Scamtown, is the fact that they deliberately make the UI so unreadable by the people that work at McDonald's that they end up having to fall back on basically bringing in the text from Taylor, which are very, very expensive. And, it's actually the revenue from their maintenance part of their company is 25% of their bottom line. So there's kind of this alliance between McDonald's where they're like, you can only use this one machine if you want to be a franchise owner. And then the company that makes the machine has a financial interest in having it basically always broken. So don't get angry at McDonald's if you can't get your Oreo McFlurry. Get angry at Taylor.
Great article in Wired a couple of weeks ago by Andy Greenberg about the couple that hacked McDonald's ice cream machines and started a Cold War. Highly recommended. And of course, Rocket at relay.fm. We do TWiT every Sunday afternoon, right about, I'd say about 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern Time, 21:30 UTC. You can watch us do it live at twit.tv/live. If you're doing that, if you're watching or listening live, please join us in the chat room at irc.twit.tv. Club TWiT members can also listen live inside our Discord channel, and we've got a chat room going there as well. Here's the link to is McDonald's ice cream machine broken? It's mcbroken.com, by the way. Thank you, Matt Ryder. Out of curiosity, before I go on, let's just see how many of those ice cream. 9% are currently broken. Of course, if you're in New York, 22.5% are currently broken. Here in Northern California, looks like about half of them are non-functional. That's crazy. This is brilliant. This is what tech was invented for. IRC.twit.tv, Discord. Let's see, Club Twit. What else was I saying? Oh, you can download copies of the show after the fact. Of course, it's a podcast. We put them all on the website at twit.tv. If you get to there, you can also check out our YouTube channel. All the shows are there. And subscribe in your favorite podcast player. That way you'll get it automatically as soon as it's available of a Sunday evening, just in time for your Monday morning commute. After the fact, we have a number of ways we can interact. Of course, we've got a wonderful Twit community at twit.community. There's also a Mastodon instance. If you like the Fediverse, it's a Twitter clone on Mastodon. That's at twit.social. And a lot of activity going on now in Club Twit. If you want to know more about joining the club, it's twit.tv/Club Twit. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can.